Right, ladies and gentlemen, if I can call to order I think this is the 94th meeting of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. Good afternoon and welcome. Today is Thursday, December 5th, 2013. This is a public hearing before the Massachusetts Gaming Commission relative to the application for a Category 2 slots parlor only gaming establishment submitted by Raynham Park LLC. My name is Steve Crosby, and I'm the chair of the commission. The entire commission is present here today with me and will preside over this hearing. I'm joined by Commissioners Stebbin and Zuniga, and Commissioner Cameron and Commissioner McHugh. We are located at the Raynham Middle School, 420 Titicut Road in Raynham, Mass. We are here in Raynham today because this is the host community to the proposed establishment, meaning this is where the slots parlor would be located if the applicant is awarded the license by the commission. Not in the school, that is, but in Raynham. As you may know, the commission has authority to issue only one Category 2 license for the entire state. There are two other applicants under consideration as well. The public support for this proposal, or lack thereof, is a critical factor that the commission will evaluate in making the final award of the license. Accordingly, your presence here this evening and the written comments you've submitted will play a pivotal role in our decision. So thank you for being a part of this process. Before we begin the public hearing, I'd like to lay out the process and establish the ground rules that we will follow. The hearing, which is provided for by Section 17 of Chapter 23K of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 118.05 of the Commission's regulations, is intended to provide the Commission with the opportunity to address questions and concerns relative to the proposal of the gaming applicant to build a gaming establishment in Raynham. The inquiry may include topics related to the scope and quality of the gaming area and amenities, the integration of the gaming establishment into the surrounding community, the extent of required mitigation plans, and any other issues that have been raised by us or to us in our deliberations. Additionally, the Commission will receive input from members of the public from any impacted community by this establishment. The hearings will begin with the welcome from the Board of Selectmen Chair Joseph Pacheco, and then a presentation by the applicant, although we may change the order a little bit here because of some travel delays. We will also allow presentations to be made by representatives of the host community of Raynham, as well as representatives from each of the surrounding communities and any impacted live entertainment venues that choose to address us. After the presentations, we will open the floor to the public for comments and questions. At the conclusion of the comments and questions from members of the public, we will afford the applicant an opportunity to make any closing comments it would like to make. Any commissioner may at any time ask a question of the applicant or of anybody else. At the conclusion of the proceedings today, the Commission will keep this hearing open and continue this public hearing to a further date to be determined. The meeting cannot be closed until after all of the surrounding community agreements have been adhered to. Notice will be provided to the city or town clerk of each host and surrounding community, as well as being posted on our website, www.massgaming.com. Is Selectman Pacheco here? All right. Would you like to start this meeting off?
Sure. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. It's an honor to see you here again, and an even greater honor for me to welcome you to my hometown, the town of Raynham, Massachusetts. We're delighted to have you here and have an opportunity to hear from some of the 86% of the people of Raynham who voted in favor of this proposal. I'm sure you'll have some questions for us as we move on. In addition to my colleagues on the Board of Selectmen, we'll have department heads here as well if you have any Raynham-specific questions for us, and I, at this time, will hold any other comments to when I testify myself. But again, we welcome you to Raynham. We thank you for joining us here today, and we look forward to this exercise. Thank you. Very good.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I understand that some of your team are still a little late. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. What I think we would do, and I like to do this sometimes anyway, there are members of the House of Representatives and the Senate with us, and some of them would like to speak. They have very challenging schedules with evening events all the time, And sometimes out of deference to them, we ask them to speak first in any case. So why don't we do that, and that will give your people some more time to appear. I hope I don't miss anybody, but I believe Senator Kennedy is here for starters. Am I right? I just got a note. Okay. No Tom Kennedy. Okay. We have Representative Claire Cronin. No, we don't. Representative Dan Murphy.
They're coming in.
Oh, they out there?
Yes.
There we go. There's a microphone down here. Representative? We decided to put you all on first because you guys have busy schedules.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Representative Claire Cronin. I represent the 11th Plymouth District, which consists of parts of Brockton and Easton as well. I'm a little out of breath. I just ran in here late to get started, but I want to say that I'm here very enthusiastically in support of this slots parlor for this area. I've spoken to you before. As a longstanding member of the community of Brockton, I grew up there. I can say that some 40 years ago, the first dollar I ever earned was babysitting for some Brockton High teachers who all had night jobs at the track and worked for Mr. Carney. So for me, there's a little emotional component to this, but as a member of the Economic Development Committee in the State House, I know how important this is to this area, the amount of jobs that will be created, and the fact, not just the jobs that are created, but the partnership that we will have with the Carney family. They have consistently, over and over, proven to be a very good neighbor and good employer in the area. And I think that as this process has all evolved, we've seen some of the instability of some of the other people who are looking for casino licenses or slot parlor licenses, but the one thing has never been is any unwaveringness on the part of this proponent for this slots parlor here. We have, you know, I would liken it to a tree, the old oak that is firm and steady in the face of the storm. So as a member of the Economic Development Committee, I have the great interest in jobs in the region, but also for the Commonwealth as well. So when we are putting forth our support for these casinos, the slot parlors, we want to know that our partners will be successful. And I think the track record that has been proven in the past is a good reflection of the future. We have a community that is strongly in support of this. That's not true in many other areas of the Commonwealth. We have a workforce that's waiting and ready to work. We have Bridgewater State University in the area, Massasoit Community College. The programs are there to provide the workforce. The construction jobs that will be in the area, I don't have to tell you that. I could go on and on and on and on. But what I will say is the support that this proposal has from this area and from our legislative delegation in the area, it's important to Brockton, my community, it's important to Easton as well, but the region in general, and to the whole Commonwealth, because this will be a successful slots parlor if we're given the opportunity. So I thank you very much. I appreciate your courtesy in letting me go first.
Thank you, Representative.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Senator Kennedy, I believe I'm told is here now. I keep getting notes that he needs to speak so he can leave. Is Senator Kennedy out there somewhere? All right. And Representative Brady? All right. How about Mayor Hoy? Yes, sir. How are you? From the city of Taunton.
Commissioner, nice to see you again. Members of the commission, great to be here today. My name is Tom Hoy. I'm the mayor of the city of Taunton. As the mayor of a surrounding community, I wholeheartedly support this project. I strongly feel that the racing component of Raynham Park never should have been taken away, as there were so many residents from not only Taunton but the entire region that were employed at the track, and it was certainly a vital part of our local economy. The potential jobs that will be created as part of this new venture are critical to our region. I don't think that I need to remind anybody that Raynham is located between the gateway cities of Taunton and Brockton, two former industrial cities without the industry of yesterday, but certainly with the challenge of unemployment and often the overlooked problem of underemployment. With the potential of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe building a world-class resort casino in Taunton, many of you are probably wondering, why are you here, Tom? But I feel it would be hypocritical of me not to support the Raynham project, as it will provide regional jobs, just as our own resort casino would. Raynham Park will provide our local tradesmen employment opportunity, as well as many permanent and part-time jobs within the gaming facility. As far as the City of Taunton's surrounding community agreement with Raynham Park to deal with the potential adverse effects in Taunton, which I feel mainly would be traffic, I feel was extremely fair to both sides, and it was in fact accepted unanimously by the Taunton Municipal Council. In closing, there has always been a very strong relationship between the Carney family and the City of Taunton. They have always been a charitable supporter of many of our community organizations and events, and I see no reason that this long-time partnership will not continue, and that Raynham Park should once again thrive and be a vibrant part of our community. Thank you very much for the opportunity here this evening.
Thank you.
Mayor, before you go, could I ask, how does your potential partner, your casino operator, the tribe and its funders, Genting, see the prospect of having the slots parlor so nearby?
I have not had, to be totally frank, I have not had that discussion with them. It's been mentioned in passing, but I feel that, as Mr. Carney has stated on many occasions, I think that competition is good for everyone. And I think that this region, you know, especially when we tie Fall River and New Bedford in, that would also benefit from the potential jobs. I think this is a great opportunity that should be taken advantage of. I mean, in my opinion, Raynham Park never should have been closed for dog racing. I think that was wrong, that decision, when that vote was taken and came down. It put a lot of people out of business and out of work. So I think this is a good opportunity to right a wrong, so to speak.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Kennedy yet? Representative DeGiulia. I just saw him here. Former Mayor Jack Units. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. I mispronounced, right? Sorry, Mr. Chairman. D'Amelia, sorry.
D'Amelia.
Yeah, right. Sorry, all right.
Representative Angelo D'Amelia from Lake Plymouth. I represent Bridgewater and Raynham. So I want to thank you and welcome you to my community here in Raynham. As you're well aware, even though you mispronounced my name, Mr. Chairman, I'm one of the two House members that have been selected to serve on the Gaming Policy Advisory Commission. And I've had the opportunity to attend multiple meetings with your commission and see the stringent and the difficult process that these applicants have had to go through. So I want to concur with the previous speakers that it shows the ability that the applicants here in Raynham, from Raynham Park, the Carney family and his partners, they have the ability to work within the community, and they've proven that in the past. So kudos to the process that you oversee along with the other commissioners in making sure that we have qualified applicants that are going to best serve the Commonwealth when they get the opportunity to come forward with their facilities. I'm now in my second term. I'm serving on my second term. So I have the honor to take part in the vote on the Expanding Gaming Act. It had been around for many, many years and was talked about. But when I was running initially, I think I had the opportunity to bang on almost every door in Raynham. And overwhelmingly, one of the questions I got was, what's your position on the closing of the former track here in Raynham? And what do you think about the effect it had on our community and the jobs that the Carney family provided to many of us here in Raynham and in surrounding communities? And I told them, if I had the opportunity, after listening to and talking to many of the people here in the community, I would vote in favor of the Expanding Gaming Act. Back in 2011, I got that opportunity. So it's been very interesting to see this process unfold and how it's evolved. And I think what you need to consider as you go forward and make your decision on who's going to get this one slot parlor license is the track record that the applicant has and what he's been able to do along with his business partners here in the community when it comes to providing jobs and running a gaming establishment and integrate themselves into the community. So I think it's very important. So, I've talked to, like I said, a lot of different people and heard the tremendous support for the Raynham location. I think it's a good location. I think they have a proven track record, and I was pleased that when the referendum was held, what I've been saying all along has been proven true. Over 86% of our community is in favor of getting those jobs back to here in Raynham, and the city of Taunton, people from Taunton will work there, Bridgewater, and other surrounding communities. It's important to realize the residents have made it clear that we are willing to see something back there at that facility, because like the mayor said, Mayor Hoy from Taunton said, I think it was unjust that they had their business taken away from them. So with that, I'll leave you. I thank you for the opportunity to speak, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Representative. Before you leave, I just want to return the compliment. Your constituents should know that you have come to every single one of our meetings, and every of the committee that you're on, the advisory committee that you serve on. Most people in your position send their staff and think they're too busy to come to meetings like this, but you've actually come and attended each one and sat there and worked with us, and we appreciate that very much, that you take it that seriously.
Well, I got to say thank you, Mr. Chairman. I take it tremendously seriously that I have been blessed with the opportunity to serve the people of Bridgewater and Raynham. And as long as they'll have me, I'll continue to come up and take part. So
Great.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Former Mayor Units of Brockton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Units of Brockton. I must confess, before I begin, to a revelation that I had when this gaming commission was first announced by the governor. I almost sent a letter to His Excellency expressing my interest. It was the best letter I never sent. Over the past several months, I have watched how tediously you have addressed this issue. I never anticipated the hours and the level of commitment that was going to be required of you. And I can't compliment you enough for the great hard work and the integrity of the process that you provide for the citizens of this Commonwealth. Whatever happens, we know it'll be the right thing.
Thank you.
With regard to this present project, I don't think that of the three proposals that are left before you, any one will have the economic impact on the region that this one will. Mayor Hoy has already mentioned the impact that it will have on residents from as far away as Fall River and New Bedford coming up to find work. For Brockton, it'll have even a greater impact because the Carney family has announced that they would like to bring thoroughbred racing back to Brockton. Thoroughbred racing in its grand days, about a century ago in Brockton, was a godsend for our community. We built a baseball stadium adjacent to the fairgrounds in Brockton with the hope of rekindling an entrepreneurial spirit, that part of the city, that would bring families back to Brockton for fun, for celebration, and for jobs. The Stadium Conference Center has been a success. Hundreds of kids have worked there and gone on to college. A lot of single mothers continue to work at our conference center, and it's the difference between survival and sending their kids off to college. This proposal will do not just great things for the Raynham area. It'll help Brockton. It'll help with the other gateway cities south of Brockton, and certainly will help Taunton. And I think that the proven track record of Kearney family, as Rep. Cronin has already stated, is beyond doubt. They have been a huge and significant part of our region, both in terms of charity and jobs, for an extended half a century. You can't say enough about that, and you can't say enough about the proposal they've put together. It's the cream of the crop, but it will have not only a huge economic impact in terms of jobs, but it'll help change the character of our community in Brockton. The idea of putting a mile track at the fairgrounds to improve the State House buildings, to do all the grand things that Brockton has already dreamed of, and we did try to do that during my administration. Judge actually did bring back racing for a while, but on a less than a mile track, it was very difficult to make it work. They've tried and they haven't given up, and they will continue to do the right thing. So I pray and hope that you will consider this not just as an isolated proposal, but as a huge regional investment, both in terms of economy and changing the face of our region in a positive way. Thanks very much again for all your efforts. You've done a tremendous job.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you.
Senator Kennedy or Representative Brady? Are your guests all here now? Yes.
We are here.
Welcome. We're getting some elected officials who wanted to speak, and I believe there's a selectman from Easton, Selectman Murphy. Please join us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to say a few words on behalf of this proposal. I do want to say at the outset, though, that my thoughts initially here today are my own. I don't represent the board or the town initially here. I'm a longtime Easton resident, and before that Brockton, that recalls very fondly the days of a thriving operation at Raynham Park. And that business was very important to surrounding communities like Easton in several ways. But the most important, as people have said before me, was jobs. And a job does not have to be a six-figure job to be important. I knew many people who paid either their college tuitions or paid their children's college tuitions by being bartenders, program sellers, waitresses, waiters at the track. Among them, teachers, police officers, firefighters. The return of that type of economic stimulus could be vital in this area. I agree with Mayor Hoy, and Representative D'Amelia, and whoever else has mentioned that the ending of dog racing by a ballot initiative, in my opinion, was a travesty and unfair to Raynham Park and the Kearney family. But I am impressed by the efforts to continue at the location and what they've accomplished since that's happened to maintain a business presence and provide an opportunity for this facility. The key factor in this specific proposal, to me, is the fact that the Kearney family will play a key role. Their track record, no pun intended, in running a gaming facility speaks for itself and provides a level of comfort for my support. I will say from a town perspective that it's clear there'll be impact to the town of Easton. 50% of the traffic will flow into our streets. And because of the way the legislation was written, we have the opportunity to receive mitigation for this impact. And we are currently negotiating that. We do not currently have an agreement, but I will tell you that talks are ongoing. They're very positive. They're moving in the right direction, and I hope that we will have an agreement very shortly. So, in summary, I am very much in support of the Kearney family in this proposal, both personally and from a town of Easton perspective. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Selectman. And I believe there are some elected officials from Raynham, but we'll save those for the Raynham presentation. I think we're ready to switch to the applicant, who is supposed to start off our with a presentation.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I apologize for the delay. We were grounded in the Philadelphia airport and couldn't get out, but I'm very happy to be here for more than the obvious reasons. And it's very nice to see our friends from Raynham again. George and I are extremely grateful for the resounding show of support you gave us in the referendum. An 86% approval rating is very, very compelling, and I promise you that you will not be disappointed in your vote. With that, we'd like to move forward with our presentation to talk about our project and why it's the best proposal for the Commonwealth. I'll speak about the project. I have Eric Ray, our architect, to talk about the design. Tom Erickson from Tishman will speak about the construction program, and Sandra Brock of Niche Engineering will speak about the permitting and the schedules that we have in the construction timeline. So to lead off, with respect to the project and the proposal itself, we believe that our proposal is the best for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We offer the best location in the state. We'll talk about that a bit later. We'll be the first to market with our Phase 1 temporary program. That will maximize the revenue to the state. We have the best team. We combine the talents of Parks, which is the most successful casino operator in Pennsylvania, with the outstanding Carney team, who know this market very well, and I heard some of the testimonials as I walked in, and I certainly agree with all of that. We have the highest level of local support among our competitors, with the 86% approval rating I referred to earlier, and I think that does reflect the strong bond that George Carney and his team have with this town. Our property will be an elegant design, which will provide a significant architectural, social, and economic boost to the region, and will incorporate significant environmental sustainability features. We offer a safety net for the harness racing industry, given the uncertain climate in the event the Plain Ridge Racetrack would close. And our 100-acre site offers additional development options, particularly with the designated station on the South Coast Rail line that we have. And lastly, I would say certainty of execution is a very important consideration in this decision. The Parks team has successfully implemented this program in the past. We have financial strength, and we certainly have the operational resources and expertise to present a very successful program for the state. I'd like to talk a bit about our location. Obviously, the people who live here know it very well, but our property is approximately 30 miles south of Boston, with excellent highway access off of I-495, 95, and Route 24. And as I said earlier, our site, which is once the largest Greyhound track in the world, has an existing infrastructure that will support the casino traffic in the future. And again, as I said earlier, it offers significant development options since it is 100 acres large. It's not constrained in that sense, and we have the South Coast Rail line option to build around. We have outstanding market demographics. Approximately 1.8 million people, adults, live within 25 miles of Raynham Park. Our existing zoning approval, our grandstand facility creates expedited timeline for the casino opening, which is why we will be first to market. And the superior quality of this location as a gaming facility has already been evidenced by the significantly higher handle levels that were experienced here at Raynham versus Plain Ridge during the period 1999 through 2008, when both properties were racing live, and the average differential during that period was 86% more handle here at Raynham than at Plain Ridge during that period. And I think that speaks to its potential as a slot facility, too. The next slide actually speaks to that point. As you can see, earlier in the early 2000s, the differential was actually in the 100% range, and it declined in the later years as live racing program declined here at Raynham. Talk a bit about the construction program. It will be conducted in two phases. There'll be an initial phase 1, which will be to refurbish the existing racetrack grandstand. We'll install 1,250 slot machines within 6 months of the gaming decision, the license decision. And our projections at this moment in time assume an August 2014 opening, assuming a February decision. We will then move to Phase 2, where we will construct a 175,000 square foot casino that will include best-in-class branded bars, restaurants, and a multi-purpose entertainment center. And that will offer exciting live performances along with banquet and conference facilities. The expected timeline for completion of Phase 2 is approximately 18 months. This is consistent with our successful experience and approach at parks in Pennsylvania, where we initially opened with 2,000 slot machines in our racetrack grandstand in December 2006. We ultimately moved and we did that within 5 months. And we ultimately moved into a permanent facility in December 2009, and that housed 3,000 machines. I do want to make a point with respect to the temporary facility and make sure that everyone understands that this will be a very, very attractive facility. We understand very, very well that this is going to be our first impression in the marketplace. We want it to be a very good one. We approached it the same way in Pennsylvania. When we opened in the racetrack grandstand, it was a very, very nice, comfortable facility. The customers loved it. And even while we were in that racetrack grandstand, we were the #1 casino in Pennsylvania. That then positioned us to transition to the permanent casino, where we gave an even better experience to our customers. We do plan to implement the same approach here. The construction budget for the 2 phases, we estimate that we will spend approximately $31 million on the temporary facility, and then another $137 million toward the permanent structure, for a grand total of $168 million toward construction efforts. In addition to that, there will be a $25 million license fee. We budget $5 million for financing fees, another $13 million for pre-opening expenses, $10 million for working capital, and a $6 million loan for Brockton Racing to conduct the harness meet, for a grand total of $227 million of capital requirements. And based on our revenue projections, the casino will generate approximately $131 million of annual gaming tax revenue for the Commonwealth. Assuming that we are the first to market and we open 1 year before the other facilities, that means that we will generate an additional $130 million than any of the other proposals. And we also believe there are additional revenue benefits associated with our proposal, because our location is better, and we do believe we will generate more revenue. And with the state earning 49% of that, it will be significantly more revenue at this location than the others. We also believe there's a benefit to positioning the casino here if a Indian casino would open in Taunton, because there would be a potential for us to pick up some of that business at a much higher tax rate to the state, at 49% versus the 17% that would be realized in Taunton. The next slide talks about the number of jobs we expect to generate here in both phases. During Phase 1, we expect to employ 603 people with an average salary of approximately $42,000. In Phase 2, approximately...
Salary or compensation?
Salary, average annual salary of $42,000.
That's not exclusive of benefits.
Correct. That is correct. In Phase 2, we would employ 804 people, slightly higher salary, $42,700 per year. And I would like to point out that we offer an outstanding benefits package. We do believe that in order to achieve a level of high customer service, loyalty, and satisfaction, you must have happy, motivated, engaged employees to deliver that service. And toward that end, we pay our employees very, very well. We give them the best benefits in the industry, and it reflects in our customer service scores and also in our employee engagement scores. We do better than any of our competitors. The economic impact of the construction phase will be $313 million as total GDP throughout the state. We'll create 1,400 jobs, $97 million of worker payroll, and $25 million of tax revenue during construction. For ongoing operations, we will generate $402 million of total annual economic output, 1,778 new jobs, $73 million of worker payroll, $138 million of new tax revenue. We also have, as I mentioned earlier, a proposal to support the harness racing industry. Raynham Park's members have formed a new entity, Brockton Racing LLC. This entity has received a license from the Racing Commission to conduct a race meet at the Brockton Fairgrounds in 2014. One of the conditions of this license is that, obviously, Raynham Park receives the casino license and that Plain Ridge Race Course would close. Not that it's something that we hope will happen, but in the event it did, we would be there to offer that safety net. We will provide, as Raynham Park, a $6 million loan to Brockton Racing in order to create the necessary capital improvements to the fairgrounds and to actually conduct the meets. So lastly, I'd like to point out, again, with respect to our location, I think we have, again, certainty of execution, as I mentioned earlier, but we are so perfectly situated, particularly when you consider that this will be the first license issued for probably a substantial period of time. Where we're situated, we can cut off all that traffic that flows from Massachusetts into Connecticut, into Rhode Island, at Twin River, and I think that's a very compelling element and consideration for our proposal. It also speaks well, as I mentioned earlier, the population density in the Massachusetts region really sits between Boston and Raynham, and it's a straight shot here. This is where most of the people live. This is an outstanding location. That concludes my portion of the presentation. I would now like to turn it over to Eric Ray, who will cover the design elements of the program. Thank you.
You want me to move over there, or you want to just flip?
You want to just go through? I'll flip.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. We've had the opportunity to work with the Carney family and Parks for over a year and a half in studying this site. We've looked at a number of different options. In the interest of time, we will not go through all those options tonight, but it's fair to say that there's been a very thorough analysis of this site, and we think that the proposal that we've come up with is a very effective way to take advantage of the existing facilities and at the same time use this site to create a world-class casino that not only will be at its completion a very fine amenity, but will be situated such that there's ideal opportunities for future expansion. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The drawing that you see on the screen represents what we call the Phase 1 casino. The area that is in light blue is, for those of you familiar with the facility, is the clubhouse and central knuckle building of that facility. After looking at a number of different options about where to place the new casino, the Phase 2 casino, we concluded that the existing grandstand, which is centrally located on the site, is the right location. So it may be a bit faint for those in the back of the room, but there's a light dash blue line that represents the outline of what will be the new casino. In this Phase 1 casino, we will have a fully operating casino, fully operating parking facility, surface parking that is, and also all of the traffic improvements that are required for this facility will occur in Phase 1, which will be a signalized intersection in the center of the site. There's a lot of detail on the next few slides, and I just want to make the point, as Tony earlier indicated, that while this may be called a temporary casino, it is not a building where we are just going to move slots in and put up some paint. This is a full renovation of this existing facility. Starting with the main entry, which will be completely remodeled to include new elevators and new grand stair entry. The purple color represents the slot portions of the facility. We are looking at the lower of 2 floors of this building. To the right, you see the existing, what we call back of house, what are employee facilities, loading, all the support necessary. And on this level, we will also have a full cafe and bar. In addition, we are making a number of important improvements, both in terms of the life safety systems of the building and even the basic necessities such as toilets, so that we are fully compliant with current Massachusetts codes. This drawing represents the second or upper floor of the facility. Again, the purple color represents the new slot areas. The green represents an important amenity on this site, and that is the existing simulcast, which will continue to remain in operation during the construction. And then finally, this is a rendering of the Phase 1 casino, and you can see that we are fully enveloping the exterior of the building with new facades, a combination of the what we call the Mondrian pattern, which is part of the Parks brand, and then additional elements that provide a certain energy and engaging experience. We want the buildings, both the Phase 1 and the Phase 2 casino, to reflect that this is an entertainment venue, that this is a fun and an engaging place to be, and we believe the architecture reflects that. This drawing represents the site plan of the Phase 2 casino. The dashed red line represents the Phase 1, which would ultimately be demolished, and then the provision of a new centrally located Phase 2 casino, which will include a number of amenities. Not only the 1,250 slots, but 2 food and beverage venues that are 8,000 square feet. Currently, we envision one of these would be a food court, and the other would be a specialty restaurant. Parks is talking to several partners about that. One of the unique elements that we believe separates this from, go back one second, separates this facility from some of the others is the provision of a 15,000 square foot special event space. That's the red rectangle that you see towards the rear of the property. Immediately adjacent to the casino, but separated enough that independent activity could happen in there. We think this will be a very synergistic amenity with the casino, and was an important investment that Parks is going to make. This just represents the lower level, but shows that we will continue simulcast operations on the site in the light green, and then a very abundant amount of employee and service areas, not only for employees, but storage and all the things that are necessary to allow this to operate at the highest level. This is a rendering of the exterior of the Phase 2 casino, and again, a combination of very strong materials and a strong architecture. We're looking to make a very vibrant, very engaging facility. This is an elevation as you look at it from the entry, and the quality of materials that are being proposed here really, I think, go beyond a lot of regional facilities. We're talking about a stone, metal, and glass entry facade. And then you see the 2 large illuminated active signs, the orange color. And the side elevations are a combination also of stone and glass, as well as an interesting product called phenolic resin, which allows you to work in a variety of different patterns. Again, carrying this idea of fun and energy across all facades of the building. I might also note that we've made a point of including a lot of natural glass at the restaurants and the employee facilities, both to engage the outside and to help the building be more sustainable. The gaming industry has changed a lot in the last 10 to 15 years, and as resorts have given way to more regional facilities, I think it's fair to say that a lot of the regional facilities, partially due to tax situations, partially due to just a desire not to go too far with their finishes, have provided facilities that don't have the level of finish that what you'd find in major resorts. Our firm has had the opportunity to work on both gaming facilities regionally, but also major resorts. And I can say with confidence that Parks has not followed that trend. The level of finish that they have provided at Parks in Bensalem and what they're proposing to provide here at Raynham is really resort quality. These are high-end interior finishes, and I think it's going to make a tremendous experience for the user and the guest. This just represents, these next few slides represent existing facilities, or existing amenities rather, at the Parks Bensalem facility, and I think, as you can see, these are really high-end quality materials. And then finally, one of the things that's very appealing about this site is not only its size, but the opportunity to take advantage of the South Coast Railway, which we understand is moving forward, and the fact that this site is a designated stop. And while the final layout of future expansion could vary from what you see here, there's a tremendous opportunity to not only expand the gaming and entertainment facility with more retail, but possibly a hotel, and then have that connect back to the rail station with possibly additional retail, a farmer's market. There are a number of ideas that are being considered. This future expansion is beyond the current application, but the land certainly provides this opportunity. As noted, there are some really unique and we think distinguishing factors to the site. It's already intensely developed. The amount of development that we're actually providing on this site will reduce the amount of pavement, macadam, on the site. The infrastructure that exists on the site today will support the Phase 1 casino. This is true in terms of water, sewer, power. The infrastructure to the site, leading to the site boundaries, will not only support the Phase 1, but will support the Phase 2 casino. The amount of traffic that we're proposing, and we'll talk about that in a minute in a little more detail, is actually less than what the site handled at its high point of greyhound racing. So it's certainly set up to accommodate that. As I've previously noted, it's been master planned to allow for future expansion. And then our redevelopment will actually green this site. Approximately 25% more green will exist on the site when we're finished than does today. And on that note, I just want to speak a minute about the sustainability features that Tony alluded to. We are committed to a LEED Silver building. For those of you who do not know, LEED is a national building standard for sustainability. It is our goal to hit LEED Gold, which is even more significant. And we intend to do that through a variety of different features, including more energy efficient equipment, photovoltaic cells on site, and a long list of amenities that probably we don't have time to get into today. But needless to say, we're confident that we can do that, and pleased that our client agrees to pursue that. The Gaming Commission asked us specifically about how we came up with our parking counts. And the numbers that you see on the screen may be difficult to read, but needless to say, our parking counts were established by using the Raynham code standards for things that do exist in Raynham, whether it be hotel, restaurant, meeting, or assembly space. And then naturally, there are not casinos in Massachusetts, so there was no standard. So we worked with our client to establish what we believe are very reasonable number of parking spaces for the amount of slots in the simulcast facility. What you see on here are 4 different phases of development. Phase 1 and 2, 3 and 4 would be in the future. But the bottom line is that every level of development, we've been thoughtful and thorough in calculating the amount of parking, and at every level of development, we are providing more parking than is required by those calculations. So with that,
Thank you very much, Eric. Our next presenter will be Tom Erickson, Vice President for Tishman Construction Corporation, and he'll discuss the construction schedule.
Terrific, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, today...
Sure to speak right into the mic.
Yep, absolutely. Well, today I'm going to speak to Phase 1 and Phase 2 construction schedule. Phase 1 representing the temporary casino or the initial build. So it is a renovation of an existing building. We have developed a critical path schedule that is summarized here, and it's a 6-month construction project from award. There's really 3 main areas of focus for us. Terrific opportunity is the pre-construction planning that's underway right now. So working with Eric's group, we're looking at, we're performing exploratory work, studying materials, early procurement, and every opportunity we have to enhance the critical path and mitigate risk and timing. But also, and really focused on this building, are the code upgrades, life safety upgrades, mechanical, electrical, basically an infrastructure project. Eric mentioned the new entry and the ADA compliance. So this is a full renovation. It is a building that's going to have significant interior improvements, And when you look at it on a dollars per month basis for 6 months, you're talking about a little over $3 million a month putting in place, which is a reasonable number. You know, we're accelerated, we're moving quickly through this renovation, but $3.3 million per month put in place is a reasonable number for such a project. The permanent casino, Phase 2, follows, the construction start follows the MIPA process, the MIPA permit. And as Tony mentioned, it's an 18-month project from award. We're looking at a 16-month construction schedule. With the additional time we have early for planning, we're doing the same thing. An intense pre-construction effort, looking at materials, pre-purchase, modeling the building, using the latest technologies, basically building it on paper so that when we are in a position from a permitting standpoint to begin that construction, we absolutely hit it hard. And we're going to blow through the foundations and the structure and the skin facade and get to the high-end finishes that Eric described. It is, the pre-construction is a significant opportunity for us. The 16-month schedule is very realistic. So really, in summary between the two, Phase 1 at 6 months, Phase 2 at 18 months from award or 16-month build, it's something we're very comfortable with.
Thank you, Tom. I think I would add that we will have the drawings in place. As Tom mentioned, we've already advanced those so that we will be in a position when the decision is made. In fact, we've advanced the drawings to the point where they'll be submitted to MIPA in this month. And we will have the drawings submitting for permit around the time that the commission makes its decision. So we will be in a position to move right away.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Our next presenter will be Sandra Brock, who's the Chief Engineer for Niche Engineering. She'll give you an update on the permit status.
Thank you very much. As you know, as part of the Phase 2 for the license through the Gaming Commission, we went through the E&F process, which is the environmental notification form through MIPA. And coming out of that, we were given a certificate with basically a list of things to look at, do additional studies, prepare additional materials. And what we've had the advantage of doing is giving the notice to proceed with all of that work so we can actually submit what's called the draft EIR, or the draft environmental impact report, at the end of December. This will allow us to actually move forward with the permitting process. It is a critical path, and we're hard at work at that. And that includes many components, such as doing a greenhouse gas emission study, which is currently ongoing, looking at some environmental issues dealing with Blanding's turtle and the ACEC. That also is currently in process. Go to the next slide. Also, as part of the effort to go through the draft EIR, we're actually looking at 12 additional intersections through the comments from Mass DOT and also the comments from the town of Easton. We have looked at 12 additional intersections. Many of those intersections are in the town of Easton, and that is in response to some of their concerns. We've already done the traffic counts on that, and we're in the middle of, again, updating our traffic study to basically address comments that were in the E&F, also to address comments from the surrounding communities and also the town of Easton. And of course, one very critical component is working with the town of Raynham and looking at the site development, both for Phase 1, which is a temporary casino, which is actually a use by right, which actually helps the process. It will be mainly a renovation, and it's not a lot of changes to the actual site itself. And then once we get to Phase 2, it's a much more intense permitting process. I have appreciated the availability and the responses that I've gotten from the town of Raynham. They've been extremely helpful, and we're continuing that dialogue. And in fact, we have a complete interdepartment meeting set up in a couple weeks to really get into the nuts and bolts of the process for both Phase 1 and Phase 2. So on the design side, we're very much committed to moving this critical path of permitting along. There's a lot of moving parts to it. Be more than happy to answer any of those questions. There's a lot of activity going on right now. There's a lot more work to do, and we look forward to working with the town of Raynham and also the surrounding communities to give them updates and actually continue along that permitting process, in addition to just submitting the environmental impact report at the end of December.
Thank you, Sandy. In conclusion, I know this is a condensed presentation, so I'd just like to make one last point because I think it is very, very important. We have a lot of confidence in this plan because it's something we've done before. And we'll actually be better at this, as you always are, when you've had some experience, you learn from some mistakes. We're very, very comfortable and confident in our ability to deliver both on in both phases of the construction timeline and in our ability to deliver on the projections that we've given for revenue and taxes. Based on our experience, we see many, many similarities to the experience in Pennsylvania. Thank you very much, and we're available for any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. We will have questions, but before we do that, I do believe that Senator Kennedy and Representative Brady are here, and I know they do have other appointments, so if Senator Kennedy would like to start. This is going to be his last chance. There we go. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you. Excuse me for the delay. I have to do all my little buttons and gizmos here to get myself situated. First of all, I appreciate having the opportunity to speak in front of all these other good people. I don't mean to step in front of them for any other reason that I have several other events tonight that would fill my normal calendar, so I do appreciate it, and I hope these folks can understand. I also want to say to you a hearty appreciation for what this commission is all about and all the work that that's gone into it from you. The public will little realize how much of yeoman-type effort you've put in and have done and will continue to put into the final result is finished. But we in government and we who are involved in these proposals do realize it, and I give you a collective tip of the hat for this service and offer you my thanks and my praise.
Thank you.
I specifically want to talk today about obviously two things with the Raynham, Taunton, and Kearney family. One is about the inclusion of harness racing, which will bring not only additional recreational opportunities, but new jobs to my community. This is music to our ears as Brockton officials and Brockton residents. And even better news for the people across this region. Harness racing is an old and honorable and popular to a number of folks that are involved in the racing industry. And the spin-off extends beyond my city of Brockton. As a state senator, I have 7 other communities that cut across Bristol and Plymouth County. And a number of them are rural areas where literally there are farmers that raise hay, but board horses, and raise feed and the like. And the prospects of having the racing industry disappear to them is absolutely a nightmare. And thankfully, this harness racing proposal would keep that industry alive and keep the open space prospects of our region that much more brighter. So I think that that's a big plus for this proposal from Raynham Taunton, a big plus for the city of Brockton, and a big plus for the environmental and the agricultural areas of our state. And when it comes to the gaming issue, not only will the benefits extend beyond the jobs that will be realized should something come, the award be given to Raynham Taunton. It also has that automatic chain reaction spinoff. The plumbers, the contractors, the electricians, the wide array of vendors across this region will be greatly benefited by such a facility being operated. I know firsthand, growing up in Brockton all my life, the small companies that benefited when the track was in full bloom. You know, a local plumber company hired 4 or 5 fellows, and it was full-time working over at Raynham. When the track closed, he retired and he laid off all of his employees because the business wasn't there for him. If it comes back, that same type of scenario will be repeated. I'm sure that you're also well aware, but I'll touch again upon the local ties of the Carney family. Their roots in our community run deep. The benefits of Raynham Taunton have delivered to my community over the years are most significant. I know the Carney family. I know them personally. I know how committed they are to the community and how generous they have been to so many projects down through the years. The chain reaction is extremely beneficial, almost beyond measure, for this region, should this license be granted. And I appeal to you to take all that into consideration. And finally, and most importantly, I think, the fact that this is a local, family-owned Massachusetts business speaks volumes to the type of credibility, the type of responsibility, and the type of security that this operation will have. They're not a bunch of outsiders from God knows what part of the world, but they're local. They're our homegrown group. We all know them. We all respect them. We all hold them in the highest degree because they have proven to be dependable, to be worthy, and to be solid individuals. And I don't think we can ask much more for that in any walk of life or any business venture. So I leave it to the wisdom of this commission, and I thank you again for all your work and all your efforts and for your patience in allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Representative Brady?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I want to convey the words that our good friend and my fellow colleague in the state, Senator Tom Kennedy, said. We had gone through some very difficult times, not only in Brockton, but in the South Shore, with the obviously loss of the dog racing at the Raynham track. It had a devastating impact on our community with jobs. On top of that, we dealt with the economic downturn that we've been facing. And it has had a dramatic, devastating impact on the South Shore communities. I'm a state representative from the city of Brockton. I also serve on the state committee, which encompasses all the cities and towns in Bristol and Plymouth County that our good friend Senator Tom Kennedy mentioned. Prior to that, and I'm serving my 3rd term on that, I also served on the Committee of Economic Development. Number 1 priority I heard from our constituents has been jobs, 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 and people are hurting out there. And prior to that, I served 14 years on the city council in Brockton, representing the area right along the railroad tracks. Yeah, I'm sorry, the Raynham, the Brockton Fairgrounds. And I wanted to say that the owners of the fairgrounds, the Carney family, and the owners of the Raynham track have been nothing but professional in their endeavor over the many, many years, helping a lot of constituents of mine. People had second jobs, helping to pay their mortgages, or first-time jobs, and it has had a very difficult impact on our community when the loss of the Raynham track with the racing. And if, as the Senator mentioned, if you can find any wisdom to support the slots at the Raynham track, as well as, this is tied hand in hand with the harness racing at the fairgrounds. I've had overwhelming support of my constituents, not only in Brockton, but all over the South Shore, in favor of the Raynham track. And every day, people continue to come to us saying, what's going on, when are the slots coming, et cetera. And I tried to explain to them, we have to go through a process. And I thank the commission for all your patience. You've had hearings all over the state in Brockton and other parts of the Commonwealth, and I think you've done a great professional job. But we had to put laws in place to make sure we do the right thing, so we don't make the mistakes. We've hopefully learned from other states across the country that we do the right thing in this whole process, and it does take time because you want to make sure you do the right thing. But I want to thank you for all your patience and all the hearings across the Commonwealth that you've had to deal with. But I will say that the owners of the Raynham track and the fairgrounds in Brockton have done nothing but a yeoman's work, helping out a lot of constituents with jobs in the area. And this will be a great benefit to us, not only in Brockton, but the whole South Shore, for job creation. And I also serve as a committee member of Ways and Means. I'm also the Vice Chairman of Public Safety. And as I mentioned, I don't want to be repetitive, but I've heard nothing but support across the South Shore for slots at the Raynham track. And I know that they will, if it moves forward in the right direction, that they will do nothing but a professional job. And also our construction industry that has been devastated by this economic downturn. It'll help create jobs in the South Shore of the Commonwealth. So if I can be of any help with anything further, please don't hesitate to contact my office. And I ask you if you can consider moving this favorably at tonight's hearing and in the near future. And again, I know that we'll have a first-class operation down there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Okay. There are some other folks from surrounding communities, officials, but we'll get to them. There's a place on the agenda for other representatives from some of the surrounding communities. Commissioner Zuniga, do you want to start again with questions?
Sure, thank you. Excuse me, you mentioned briefly at a high level the schedule, and I was particularly interested in whether you had accounted for a transition time between the temporary facility and the permanent facility, and whether the casino would be, the operations would be closed for some period. If you can expound a little bit on
Certainly.
that notion.
Yes, we have. And as I said earlier, we've done this before. When we transitioned from our temporary in Pennsylvania to our permanent facility, we moved 3,000 slot machines. We were closed for 2 days. We believe we can do this in 1 day with a 1-day shutdown. But we know how to do it. We've done it before, and we were only closed for 2 days. So we'll employ the same drill. We know the drill. We know how to do it, and it was very successful.
Also, some of the other questions that relate to the financial aspects of the application. Have you, do you normally operate with leasing to third parties as part of the food and beverage? Do you plan on operating that yourselves? What can you tell us?
Right. Not in phase one, not in the temporary location, but as we move to the permanent facility, we have had conversations with several best-in-class branded operators. We have Chickies and Pete's in our facility in Pennsylvania, which ESPN has named the #1 sports bar in North America. They're very interested in coming here. We've had conversations with Wolfgang Puck about a restaurant. So we haven't finalized anything yet. It's very difficult to get into serious discussions with people when you don't have a license. But it will move very quickly once we know. And yes, I think it helps both the stature of the property, and it's something that has some cachet, And it's something that customers both appreciate and are drawn to when you have a brand name in your facility. So we would move to that. But we'll also operate the bar ourselves and probably the food court.
Okay, thanks. Could you also tell us relative to the times of the year or the times of the week that you envision you would be at full capacity? How do you plan to deal with that from an operational standpoint?
Right.
And if you could also speak a little bit about the difference between a temporary facility and a permanent facility relative to these maximum occupancy.
Right. Both facilities will be able to accommodate the same number of people. And typically, you'll see that the major volumes occur during the weekend period, starting with Friday evening and into Sunday afternoon. But given the fact that there is a convenience factor here, you'll see that there is steady volume through the week, unlike a destination resort. People are amazed when they come to our property that in the middle of a weekday afternoon, it's pretty busy. I mean, it's not overwhelming or anything, but if you went to an Atlantic City or Vegas casino, it would be dead in the middle of the day. So you will see that dynamic here, but nevertheless, the flows for business will be more toward the weekend period, and what you do is you set your schedules accordingly to make sure you have satisfactory levels of staff for both service levels, but security, cleaning, parking maintenance, and security there too. And that's what we do now in Pennsylvania. We do it with a much larger facility with 1,250 slots. We will have no trouble doing that. It's really a matter of setting your schedules right to make sure you have adequate staffing.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Good evening. Some of my questions are relative to economic development, the jobs, the local vending opportunities. You've provided us with FTE counts for employees, and I would ask whether you kind of gauge your projections as conservative, realistic, or aggressive.
They're realistic, and they're based on our experience in the facility we operate today.
Follow-up to that is, as you know, if we issue a license, we have the ability, the authority to attach conditions to that license. If we were to require you to maintain a certain FTE level as a condition of that license, is that something you'd be amenable to?
I think that's a very slippery slope with that type of conversation. I could tell you that we could do it, but it's a promise that I probably couldn't keep, because if the revenue isn't there, I couldn't afford to keep the employees on. So even if I told you I could do it, in reality, if circumstances were different than I had anticipated, then I wouldn't be able to afford the employees. Our business would be in trouble if we had to maintain those staffing levels, and that'd be a problem for everyone. In addition, I think we'd have trouble actually retaining employees if the business volumes were different. Many of the positions are tip positions, and people are not going to want to then work in a facility where they don't earn tips. So we would actually have difficulty if our business volumes were not in the range that we're forecasting, maintaining staffing levels at those levels. And I think lastly, it would be irresponsible of a manager to commit to an expense level regardless of his revenues to his shareholders and even to the industry in that sense, because you'd be in a really financial, that's how you get into financial difficulty. So I think I could tell you to that answer what you'd like to hear, but I'd rather be honest that even if I told you I could do it, I couldn't do it if I didn't have the revenue.
Well, I appreciate the honesty. Address your company's approach or strategy with respect to full-time versus part-time employees, and the difference in how both of those are managed. Benefits, proportion, workforce, hours, training opportunities, et cetera.
Well, we set our schedules following up the earlier question about business volumes. You set your schedules to match your business flows. So with respect to salary and management employees, typically they're full-time employees for 99%. of those employees are your full-time employees. When you look at the hourly workforce, you set your schedule based on business volumes. Typically, with the business volumes on the weekend, it's difficult to create 40-hour shifts for everyone. So what we start with is as many 40-hour shifts as we can create within that schedule, we strive to create, because we do want people to be engaged and motivated and feel connected to our company. But because of the nature of the business, it does lend itself to part-time employment on the weekend. And that works for those people too. Typically, our experience in Pennsylvania, people who are school teachers, et cetera, are happy to work on the weekends and pick up some extra money. So it really works for everyone. We figure that we'll probably have about 75% of our requirements for staff covered by full-time employees, with the rest part-time. With respect to benefits, as I mentioned in the presentation, they will receive the best benefit package in the industry. And it will also be within the guidelines established by the state of Massachusetts, which I understand 64 hours a month, any employees who work that frequently would be entitled to a certain level of benefits, and we would certainly comply with that. Anybody with 30 hours or more would receive full benefits.
Your application anticipates some future level of competition from a full-service destination casino in Massachusetts, or maybe even one of our neighboring states, but certainly in your projections in Massachusetts. How will you manage potential staff reductions as the level of competition increases, if you have to go that route?
Right. Fortunately or unfortunately, we had some of that experience in Pennsylvania, where new players came into the market, and not necessarily as close. We may have a longer distance between casinos in this state than we had in Pennsylvania. What we ended up was with attrition is typically how it will decline. You'll see that some of your employees will leave to go to the new casinos. In many cases, people who couldn't get full-time employment would then leave to go to work at the new casino. So that really ended up taking care of itself. We didn't have to have any mass layoffs as a result of that, and I expect the same thing will happen here. If it didn't, we would still strive to do it through attrition.
You made commitments in your application to hire locally. It certainly was an important focus of the statute: hire locally, spend locally. This is going to sound like a simple question, but define local for us.
Sure. In our view, it starts with the host community, the town of Raynham, then extends into the surrounding communities, and we're in the process. We're not all the way there yet, but we will have agreements with the surrounding communities. Then the next level would be residents of the state.
The statute also focuses on incorporating minority business enterprises, women-owned business enterprises, and even veteran-owned business enterprises, which is somewhat of a new phenomenon. Commitments in the design, construction, and operation of the facility. With respect to construction, is it going to be your approach that your contractor will be responsible for that?
Now, we'll retain the ultimate responsibility. Obviously, we'll work with them. It'll be part of our construction agreement that they'll have to maintain those minimum levels, and we'll obviously try to improve upon them. But it ultimately is our responsibility.
In Pennsylvania, or have you had experience, again, I mentioned that veteran-owned businesses are a relatively new phenomenon.
Yes, they are. They are.
What approach or what strategy would you take to trying to identify veteran-owned businesses?
We've been very active. There's obviously, in our area, there are many, many veterans, and we've worked very closely with the Bucks County Veterans Association. We actually have sponsored their ID card program. We offer discounts to veterans who come into our facility as customers, and we also work together with them for job and vendor opportunities. You're correct that it is an emerging type of enterprise, and I can think of two off the top of my head that we've worked with so far, but it's something that is, I'm very just on a personal level, I have a strong affinity for veterans, and I feel we should do whatever we can to support them for what they've sacrificed for us. We've worked with our town of Bensalem for a vendor fair in May, and we'll do it again next year, to create a job fair and to create vendor opportunities with us. So it's something that we would hope to replicate here, because I'm sure there's a strong veteran representation here also.
There are certainly some targets in terms of minority and women business participation in the construction phase is required by the statute, but how are you going to measure your success?
Same way we do in Pennsylvania. We'll require reporting, and we'll monitor the progress and make sure that in the construction phase that the contractor is meeting those minimum targets, and we'll work together to try to improve on them, as I said earlier. Once we open up for operations, we'll do the same thing. We report on a quarterly basis to the Pennsylvania Gaming Board on our status, and it's something that we monitor on a regular basis.
The statute asks applicants for their best efforts to hire the unemployed, and as we know, the ever-present population of what we call underemployed. Some folks may need to have some basic skills enhanced or updated before they could be brought on board or into a training program. How do you plan to assist with these recruitment and training efforts?
It's a very good question, actually, because these are, being a new industry to the state, there are many people who would like to have jobs here but don't have the specific skills associated with the casino industry. So we've partnered with the Massachusetts Career Training Institute to give the people who would like to have opportunities in our industry the training they need to get the jobs. We'll commence that as soon as we hopefully receive the license, because there is a short turnaround in terms of the opening schedule. But it probably won't take more than a month for the training, so it's not an overwhelming obstacle.
Do you expect, obviously, retention rate of any new business is important. Obviously, people come in, they realize, hey, maybe this job isn't for me, and they leave, and retention rates are often higher at the start of a new business. Do you have any expectations for what the retention rate would be at your Massachusetts facility, and then what do you do to try to limit the turnover in the operation and employee rate as you go forward?
In the beginning, the retention levels, the turnover levels will be a little higher because you'll have people who come into the industry who had some expectations, and then they learn that it's really not for them. They may not like the 24/7 aspect of the business. We've experienced that ourselves when we first opened. But once you work through that and you find, the people who actually, the majority of them actually love working in this environment, we have a very low turnover ratio. Ours in total is about 19% versus 30% for the industry. And that's heavily influenced by table games. I would say on the slot side, it would be closer to low teens. Because table games dealers do have a high turnover level. It's a tip position, and it does turn over much more frequently than the slot business. What we do to keep our employees is something I mentioned earlier. We pay them well. We give them great benefits. We give them great training. We try to make sure they're happy, motivated, and engaged. We listen to them. We include them in our decision process. And we've accomplished that, where we have outstanding customer employee engagement scores in our facility. And it's not a surprise then that translates into high customer service scores, which is the ultimate goal. And that does, in the end, keep turnover down. So everybody wins.
Just one last question. Since your application was filed in October, is there any update you have with respect to proposed labor harmony agreements for your project?
We've had several discussions with several different unions, and we at Parks have a long tradition of both building with union labor. All our construction projects are managed that way. Tishman, our construction company, contractor, has, again, a strong track record with union construction. On the operations side, we have 16 different collective bargaining units with 12 different unions. So we're very familiar with dealing with unions, and we're very confident that we will have labor peace agreements executed in due course.
Thank you.
Commissioner McHugh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My questions have, like all the others, have been provided to you in advance. And,
Yes.
and we've split up,
Appreciate that.
as you know, the responsibility for looking at the various sections of the application. And so my questions, because I'm looking at the building and site design aspect of it, will focus on that. And I wonder if, in that regard, we could go back to the first of the plot plans that we looked at there. While we're doing that, there were 3 slides showing plot plans that we looked at tonight. The third described phase, that's the one I'd like to start with for a second. Thanks. The third of the 3 described phases 3 and 4, and I understand that those are not phases to which you're committing at the moment. They'll be determined by the
Correct.
income level, and we'll see somewhere down the line if, in fact, those are done. So I'm going to stick my questions, or limit my questions to the first 2 slides. And I wonder if we could just take a look at some features here and get an explanation of some of the lines that we're looking at. There it is. This red line in the back, is that the boundary of the site, or if not, what is it?
It's the riverfront boundary. The site boundary is the darker blue line that is above that and circles the site.
Okay. And the blue building, blue area here are the existing buildings, and they're going to be the Phase 1 facility, is that right?
That is correct.
And is the grandstand area right here going to be part of the Phase 1 facility as well?
It is not. It will be demolished and make room for the footprint of the Phase 2 casino.
So that, as part of the Phase 1 process, will be a demolition project?
That is correct.
All right. And then this black line outlines the Phase 1 parking, I take it?
That is correct.
There's a green line that is there, and what does that represent? This line right here.
The green line
It's straighter than
represents-
my little dot.
Yes,
but,
I understand. We have both a parking limit and we have what we call a construction limit. And that was the opportunity to show the portion of the site that would be separated so that we could begin to explore how construction operations for Phase 2 would access the site.
Okay, and then the new construction, and we'll get to that in a second, for the permanent facility is right in this area here, is that right?
That's correct.
Now, you said, if I understood you correctly in your remarks, that all of the traffic improvements would be part of the Phase 1 construction, is that right?
That's correct. It involves both curb widening and a new signalized intersection right at the center of the site.
And that's all down in this area here?
That's correct. And then coming up into the site.
This area here?
That's correct.
So that's all, that would be new construction or improvements on existing construction?
That is correct, and it would be new improvements that would serve both the Phase 1 and the Phase 2 casino.
Right, okay. And then one last question with respect to this plan before we move to the next one. These buildings are also in blue, and in the main, well, actually, 2 questions. And in the main, they remain in Phase 2. Do they perform some function with respect to the slots parlor?
They do not. They are existing buildings owned by the Carneys, and I think that further discussion will need to take place as to when they are removed.
Okay. The final question on this slide then really is, there are some other buildings outlined in red here. Do they come down during the Phase 1 construction?
Any building outlined in a dashed red line is to be demolished.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. So that's the Phase 1 process, or the outline for the Phase 1 process. Now, if we drop down 3 slides, I think, we get to the Phase 2 process. Yes. There we are. And we now have the buildings that were part of the Phase 1 process are demolished at some point, presumably after the move.
Yes.
And we have this as the Phase 2 facility. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then we have expanded parking that goes with the Phase 2 facility. Expanded on this side, expanded down on this side, and some other areas. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. The same number of slots remain, and you've given us a calculation for both the Phase 1 and Phase 2 parking requirements, and I'm grateful for that. That's in some detail. But part of the Phase 1 project requires completion of the MIPA process, does it not? And let me say that's an acronym, and that stands for Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act process. It's an evaluation process that one has to go through before going for various permits that are necessary for the project. So part of the Phase 1 requires completion of that MIPA evaluation process, right?
That is correct, and I can allow Sandy to expand, but that is why we are pursuing the submission of that in a matter of weeks.
All right. And your anticipation is that that process will be completed by April. Is that right?
That is correct.
And does construction start before April?
Demolition starts before April.
Demolition doesn't require the completion of the MIPA process?
We don't believe so.
I see. April is, would you agree, an aggressive approach to the MIPA process?
I'll let Sandy speak to that.
I would say it is an ambitious schedule.
Okay.
We have a few things going for us on this particular site, and some of the things include the fact it's a very heavily developed site.
Right.
So a lot of the things that we're doing and a lot of the environmental issues on the site, such as the ACEC, there is some habitat, there is also some floodplain, those type of environmental impacts.
Right.
There's going to be a pretty significant improvement, and if you read through the E&F certificate, they recognize the removal of impervious areas near the ACEC, and I should just say ACEC's area of critical environmental concern. So that's been identified, and that's the Hockomock Swamp. So there's a whole process, and what we're doing right now is working with Natural Heritage for the environmental side, for the, actually it's the Blanding's turtle, that is the rare species in the area. So we're going through the process of doing studies to respond to the questions in the E&F. And the biggest advantage we have in going through this process is the existing site. It is a redevelopment, and we can demonstrate very clearly significant improvements to not only the buffer areas that will have restoration work done on it, but the improvements to the stormwater system and the improvements to water quality going into the ACEC, the swamp, is significantly better. So we have the advantage of, from my perspective as a civil engineer on the site, on doing a redevelopment, we have a lot of opportunity to make huge improvements to the environment and to the critical areas associated with some of the resource areas on the site.
And is what, thank you for that comprehensive description, is what you've just described to me and to the audience, the MIPA request for an alternative site approach?
Yeah, in the E&F certificate, and they discuss the alternatives analysis.
E&F is environmental notification form. That's the piece of paper that starts this whole process off.
Correct, in which we've
yeah.
gone through the initial process.
Right.
We've been issued a certificate. In that certificate, it describes that, and also in discussion with the MIPA reviewer in the alternatives analysis is looking at additional ways to reduce the amount of imperviousness and so forth, and that's a balance with the number of parking spaces required, and that's the process that we're doing right now. So what it is about looking at the site, we've gotten to a point where we reduced the amount of imperviousness on the site by 25%. We've actually moved the imperviousness and created a buffer to all of these wetland resources and environmental resources. And so they've asked us to go further, to look at other options, and we're in the process of doing that. It mainly has to do with, again, MEPA is the environmental impacts, has to do with those resources and looking at ways we can further reduce imperviousness and work also with the town through that process.
And by imperviousness, we're talking about the asphalt and other materials that are in the parking area that prevent water from seeping down into the ground. Is that right?
That's part of it, and all of the existing pavement on the site directly discharges into
Right.
the wetlands without any treatment.
Right. And is this site plan the plan that is that's in response to the MEPA request, or has this been modified further and submitted to them?
This has not been modified, and the submission is at the end of December. So some of the conversations we will be looking at, on all of our phasing, we have additional parking that's required. We've included, more than what's the minimum required. So we have to look at, kind of get down to the critical component as far as the parking spaces. And a lot of that is discussing that with the town and making sure that we have the flexibility to accommodate the appropriate number of parking spaces while balancing and maximizing the improvements associated to both the wetlands, whether it's the riverfront or the ACEC.
And I understand your optimism that this will all work its way through by April, but it's true, is it not, that if it doesn't and it takes longer, then the Phase 1 opening is pushed back almost on a day-for-day basis? In the 6-month, you can make up some of the 16-month construction period, but it'd be hard to make up the 6-month, isn't that so?
Yeah, the Phase 2, we don't think would be any issue.
Right.
The Phase 1, as I said, it was ambitious, and the critical path for that is the improvements to Route 138, putting in a new signalized intersection at the entrance. So that component is tied very closely, as you know, to go through the MEPA process. That is how you get your state permits.
Right.
And the key one that we need is through the Mass DOT, Mass
Right.
Department of Transportation, for those improvements.
Right.
So those two are tied. As we go through the MEPA process, we'll also be discussing the roadway improvements with Mass DOT. So we don't have to, they're concurrent. So we have the ability to kind of go and do both at the same time. But yes, if there's a delay in the process through the EIR, there would be a delay on the potential. There's not a lot of slippage. There's definitely a little bit in there. So it's not a total one-to-one. But yes, if for some reason that process is delayed significantly, then yes, the opening would be delayed.
Okay, thank you. EIR is another piece of paper that comes at some point during this paper-laden process, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
environmental impact report, and there's actually two of them. There's a draft, which would be done at the end of December, and then there's the final EIR, which we hope to do shortly after the comment period is completed.
Let me thank you very much. Let me ask now a couple of questions on another subject. We are prone to and have experienced increasing numbers of severe storms in this area as well as throughout the country. What, if any, capacity will this facility have to serve in emergencies if power is out or there are other severe storms in the area that require assistance for the population?
It's something that we dealt with last year with Hurricane Sandy. Since we have fully redundant systems, in a large facility, and we're part of a neighborhood, both in Atlantic City, both in Atlantic City and in Bensalem, we made our facilities available for anybody who had issues, and we worked together with the town to get that out there. We were fortunate in Bensalem area, it wasn't as bad as others, but definitely in the Atlantic City area, we actually had residents there. It was set up shop for communities to actually stay there for a while. It was a shelter for about a week. So, yeah, it's something that these facilities are naturally lent to do in difficult times because they're the last ones to shut down. So we would certainly be open to that.
I might add, we believe the special events space, which is a large, open, 15,000 square foot space, would certainly be easier to stage people in than a casino. So we think that's an added opportunity to take care of that type of situation.
All right, thank you very much. Question 4 on the list of questions in this area, and question 5 deal with technical areas. And I'd just as soon have a written response from you rather than burden the audience with more acronyms. Could we get could we provide a written response to those questions by perhaps the beginning of next week?
We have it now.
Okay, a written response?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that'd be great. The final question then that I have is, has to do with the parking area again, but this time focusing on charging stations for electric vehicles. Could you describe your approach to that currently and your projections for the future? Because that is something that is going to grow for us all.
Sure, I understand. As I mentioned earlier, we are committed to LEED Silver, and for those who are familiar with the LEED process, you achieve those levels through a combination of what they call prerequisites and points. Prerequisite would be, for example, that you achieve a certain level of energy efficiency above and beyond the code. And then there's a series of points. As it relates to site sustainability, one of the points that we plan to achieve is for what they call low-emitting or energy-efficient vehicles. And we intend to provide 5% of the total parking, and it's to be preferred parking, dedicated for low-emitting vehicles. Now, I want to make the distinction, that doesn't necessarily mean electric. That could be a Prius or something along those lines. The portion of the low-emitting vehicles that will be provided with the opportunity for electric charging stations is still in discussion. We think that as much as 1% of the total parking would be provided with the power, the infrastructure for those charging stations. We're not yet resolved on how many stations would actually be provided from day one. The second part of your question dealt with a variety of different types of charging stations, and we think we want to understand the market a little more before committing to a particular quantity of each type of charging station.
All right, thank you very much.
Commissioner?
Good afternoon, team. I have the Mitigation Committee, and I know we forwarded you 2 questions there. The first dealing with hosting, special events at the facility. Could you elaborate a little bit on what you anticipate there?
Deal with it's a traffic-related question.
Yeah.
It's more than, why don't you take that?
Sure. So we've gone through the process of had an initial traffic study, which was submitted with the E&F. Here we go with the alphabet soup again. And, that has been asked to be updated, and certain components of it looked closer at it. We were looking at more intersections. But as far as the peak time and, the peak use of the site, that's also included in the traffic study and looking at ways to accommodate that. And the traffic signal is a key component of that. There is sufficient parking on the site for those peak times. In fact, when you look at the site and what was previously stated, the size of the site, there's a lot of flexibility with the amount of parking that's needed. And we'll get into the conversations with the town when we go through the permitting process. Where can we use flex space and for these events? But the parking that's provided accommodates, based upon occupancy of the special events, sufficient parking on the site. So that's it. And then those timing of those events would typically be off-peak hours, which still impacts the surrounding roadways, but not during peak hours, which tend to be 7 to 8 in the morning, 4 to 6 in the afternoon. So both have been looked at, and if you need more detailed numbers and so forth, we'd be more than happy to provide those.
Okay. Thank you. Speaking of special events, I was calling it a multi-purpose room, but I think you're calling it a special events room. Could you elaborate a little?
Multi-purpose is accurate.
Multi-purpose.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the use for that facility?
Well, it'll be primarily live shows, starting with music, comedy acts. What we find is that boxing and even MMA events are very popular with casino patrons, so that will be the next level of show. We would also host banquets for our best customers. We would invite them, have a band, things like that, and then conduct it for conferences and meetings if businesses wanted to utilize them, which, we get quite a bit of requests for that at our facility. Maybe about 100 people say they'd like to have a meeting or conference at our facility and make a nice day of it. So those are the kind of options for that facility. But it'll start with and be most frequently used as an event center for a show.
Okay, so you have the ability to change the size of the room.
Correct.
And
Correct.
staging and whatnot.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. To get back to your aggressive time frame with permitting, and it was pointed out that DOT, that was one of the areas that you were concerned that had to happen in a timely manner in order to open on time. How would that affect your schedule for racing if you were to be awarded the license?
With respect to Brockton Fairgrounds?
Yes, because I know that that was supposed to happen
It would have no impact.
No impact?
No.
So that month after opening would not apply if there were delays?
No.
So you would open racing even if you had delays in opening the other facility?
I did misspoke. Yeah, because last time I did say that. You're right. That would affect that because we wouldn't have purse revenue to generate for the horsemen. I think we'd be willing to start knowing that we would, right around the corner, open the casino, but I think the problem would be that there wouldn't be any purse revenues to distribute to the horsemen. So it's something we'd have to look at that point in time, try to mitigate the issue. I wouldn't say we wouldn't open if we knew within the next couple weeks that we would be opening our casino. It's hard to anticipate every scenario. So we take a view that if we knew we were going to be opening with a couple weeks or a month, I wouldn't let that drag that out. I'm sure we could work something out with the horsemen to front end some purse money and then recapture it. But what's driving the whole purse distribution is this casino fund. So that was part of that comment, that it would be a month later because we were assuming there'd be then monies generated to distribute.
So there seems to be some uncertainty around opening in 6 months. Is that, when you say you're optimistic about being able to do that, your conversations have advanced enough, the meetings you've had?
Right. There's always uncertainty because we don't control everything in this. But in our experience, what we see is once that license is issued and this conversation about uncertainty is then behind us, there's a certainty that there will be a casino. We will move heaven and earth, and generally what we find is because now there is a decision and people are in support of this and want to see it happen, people move. Obviously, you want to make sure that you do things correctly. But we found, and as I said earlier, we did this in Pennsylvania in 5 months, and it was a larger facility. So I don't expect to see a different response here in Massachusetts once that decision is rendered. But yes, we don't control everything. I have to acknowledge that.
Okay. Thank you. Last question. One of the other areas in which the Mitigation Committee is paying attention to are the surrounding community agreements. Could you give an update on those agreements? I know there are a number of them that are outstanding.
We've got 5 out of 9 so far. We've got 4 left, and I know we had a representative here this evening already from Easton who spoke about the progress on that one. We're very optimistic that we will get these resolved in the near term. We're very, very close on all of them, I believe. Okay. And sometimes in these things, a deadline helps, both sides.
Thank you. That's all I have.
One thing I would like to add with respect to the timing issue is I do believe that there are some things we can do to help make that happen, and we will do everything we have to do to make that happen. But on the flip side, I think all these questions and concerns that apply to us apply to other people too. Those uncertainties also apply to the other proposals. So if we get extended, then I would contend that so will they. They must face the same issues we do, because ours is a much more simple approach than anybody else's.
But you have the most aggressive timeline of the 3.
Yeah, because it's just a simple fit out of an existing structure, and it's, again, based on our experience. So we would think that if they get extended, if I was building a new building from scratch, that would take quite a while if I have to wait until MIPA gives me that approval.
Okay.
I might add, though, that it's not just a hope that we can get done in 6 months. There's been a lot of work done in looking at the schedule, and Tom from Tishman spoke about that. It's always difficult to know how much detail to present at a public hearing, but there are detailed schedules, starting with design and procurement, that show a realistic schedule and scenario that we can get done. As Tony said, we can't control permitting, but we don't think that we're optimistic without some hard work behind the analysis.
We've done it before.
Can I just add one thing to it? Coming from Massachusetts, I understand the political system probably a little better than these fellows. They're outsiders. If we're fortunate enough to get the license, we'll be fortunate enough to get the work done because, like I say, the legislature and the state needs the money so desperately, they're not going to let somebody diddle-daddle around on holding them up a bit here or there. And if I can't help to get it done, then I'm sitting in the wrong seat. If we can get open in 6 months, I got news for you. We'll be open in 6 months. There won't be any dilly-dallying around with Connie. We'll get somebody to help us. It's a difference. These fellows are from out of state. I know how things work in Massachusetts, and I'll be very happy to lend my reputation. If we're fortunate enough to be granted the license, I'm not going to let grass grow while we got an opportunity to make money. I've been sitting here for 25 years. It's a long, long time. When you people look back 25 years from today, and you say, Jesus, Connie talking about 25 years, well, I never thought it would go by so fast. Believe me, I won't disappoint you.
Thank you.
It will happen.
That's the George Carney we know and love.
I almost was going to sit here, and I says, geez, I can't do that. I'm out of character.
I had a couple of quick questions. I wanted to follow up on the horse racing that Commissioner Cameron was talking about. What is your notion here? Do you believe, I don't know whether this is for Mr. Ritchie or Mr. Carney or both, do you believe that with the increased allowance for purses, that you can turn the racing into a profitable business?
I can answer that one better.
All right.
Because I'm around here, but believe me when I say this, I have great respect for my partners, but harness racing, my family was involved in harness racing up at Rockingham Park when it first started, harness racing up there many, many years ago. I know how to get it done. I know 150 days is not what harness racing needs. Harness racing needs to be brought back to run good horse racing, to run good racing, have a nice facility like we're planning at Brockton. It might take us 2 or 3 years to do what I want to do and to run it in a first-class operation. It's been neglected. It's been kind of treated as a stepchild. Everybody just ran harness racing with the idea of getting a slot parlor. There was no effort put in running a decent operation. I've followed it along. I understand what has to be done. I know how to promote it to get it done. As far as the thing is concerned, we got a great location at Brockton. If we're given the opportunity to go there, like I say, I didn't put in we could run 100 days this year because I know with the construction, I want to put in 40 days. As far as the thing is concerned, I think very much that we can work out something with the horsemen where we upfront the money, and so when the money comes in from the it's the same way we did with the dogmen and the capital improvement funds and stuff like that. I really believe that we can work that out with them because they're very anxious to come. And they're very anxious to have a place where good racing is conducted with good racing officials. And believe me, we'll run a first-class operation because I know how it should be done, and you'll be very proud of it when it gets done. Thank you.
And you think that it can be made profitable, that this isn't...
Absolutely. There's no reason. I watched harness racing. I watched it deteriorate. When I was involved at Suffolk Downs, we ran it for 24 days. I'll be very honest with you. What ruined harness racing was when E.M. Law was forced through the legislature with the dates to run winter racing. The place was hot, was never warm, it was always cold. The horses were treated as it was just a second operation. He didn't run the operation the way it should have. I watched it deteriorate from day one, as far as the thing was concerned. And then on top of that, then he had a lot of horsemen that moved over there. They all lived in houses or cabanas or whatever you want to call it, trailer parks. And then the decent horses didn't want to ship in because they didn't want to be part of a bad run operation.
George was on a roll. I didn't want to.
I know, but like I say, I can understand the harness racing. I know what it can be. I used to go to the Foxborough in the summertime when E.M. Lowe owned the place. They used to shut it down. They shut down the Latin Quarter. He brought all the people over there. If you give them good food, they're going to come and run a good operation. They have good, clean racing.
Right. I don't pretend to match George's experience, but we do have a lot of experience in racing also. I think if your question relates to the horsemen, obviously the money that's created from this fund will increase the purse sizes and certainly be a boon to the horsemen, as it has been in Pennsylvania. It's a bit of a challenge for the operator, though, and I think one of the things that everybody should, if they're looking for profitability on the operator side, it would be to scale back the number of days, as George was describing, so that you're not thinning out the distribution of purses, because nobody's thinking about the customer in that scenario. The customer is going to want to come to something that's a good quality race, as George mentioned. Then if you have something to market that's a bit of an event, you will see people come out, and you can make money doing it. So it's sort of changing the paradigm a bit in the approach.
Our statute requires that if you're an applicant that has a racing license, a condition of getting your gaming license would be to keep racing. What is the nature of your commitment?
We will continue to race.
Period. That would be a condition of your license, that you will continue the racing throughout the term of your license.
We'll accept that, sure.
Well, they're not an existing licensee now. They would not be required to.
I know, but they're volunteering apparently to take the same make the same commitment that a licensee would have. That's what I'm asking.
We wouldn't commit to 100 days a year, which is in the statute.
Yeah, okay. But you would commit to keep some amount. What is it you propose?
And that's the basis for our proposal, yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
we have no problem with that commitment, because we know there's going to be purse money available to the horsemen. There's really no point in spending the money at Brockton and creating this racetrack if we don't want to continue doing it.
Right, okay. One of the other applicants told us that their average salary would be $30,000. Compensation was $40,000, but salary was $30,000. Can it be right that you pay 33% more on the whole for folks, or is there a methodology problem here?
It's probably a combination of the two. It's probably not one thing, but as I said earlier, we do pay our employees well. We try to get the best employees. We want to retain them. We don't want to lose them. We want to offer great service. And, you know, it's been a very successful formula, but that's similar to our experience in Pennsylvania.
And do you pay at a higher pay scale in Pennsylvania from comparable places?
Yes.
And when you say salary, does that include the tips?
It does not.
Does not include the tips. Oh, okay. And just the last question, you talked a couple of times about the dramatic competitive advantage that the Raynham location has over the Plainville location. And I don't quite get that. It's equidistant to Boston. They're not very far from one another. They're both close to Rhode Island. What is the nature of the competitive
I'm sure my friend
advantage?
can speak to it, but I think the numbers speak for themselves. Forgetting the location, when they were competing head-to-head like that for wagering, there was no comparison. And I think, you know, George has explained it to me. I'll let him explain it to you.
No, but you were talking, well, okay, if that was location, if that was due to the location, you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Okay.
In my opinion, the location at Raynham is very, very good, because in the past years, when we first started off, when I took over, my family's been there since 1941 or 42. I started working there when I was 14 years old. And so I grew up kind of in the business. When I took it over after my father and his partners all passed away, we were running 50 days. When I moved it from 50 to 75, and from 75 to 120, so then before I got through, I was running 565 performances. I know this way, I know the market area very well. I know the people come from the Quincy area. We got more money in our location when you're drawing from Randolph, you're drawing from Quincy, you're drawing from South Boston. This was the people that came to the track. We used to know where they came from when you're cashing the lottery tickets and you're cashing the tickets that paid over $600. So we followed where the customers were coming from. On top of that, talking about, we're not going to draw that much from the Rhode Island line. We're going to draw from the Brockton, Abington, Whitman. We got a great nucleus of people. We got, and Taunton is a lot of customers out of the Taunton, Fall River area. So we had a built-in customers coming from the Boston area. They used to come down, believe it or not, they used to come down to Raynham rather than go to Wonderland. They didn't want to go through the tunnel. It's the same way as far as with the traffic coming, the roads we have, the network is so good. We have a tremendous amount of people come from the Cape Cod, believe it or not. In the wintertime and the fall of the year, we get some in the summertime we used to get because we used to put brochures and motels and things like that down there. But with a lot of customers, we did a huge business off of Cape Cod. Right up to 495 was a straight shot, and it's just, I'm not saying this because it's my end, but we got just a super location, we got a great road network, and it was always been very, very successful. But we drew more customers than, when I took over, Wonderland was the biggest dog track in the world. Before we got through, they will wind up way behind us. So, I mean, it's one of those things, it's just a nice area. The people in our area make the money that they make, the higher income, which is very important also to the overall picture. You give them good food and a good service, a good price, you'll have plenty of customers.
I think the map that was in my earlier presentation, it had a heat map for population densities. You do see, it really supports what George is saying. I asked George the same question as we were assessing this, and it's clear to me that it makes sense. It's logical that you can see straight down to Boston, you go straight down to Raynham, and that's where the people are. So yes, it's not that far apart, but it's more convenient.
Okay. Any others? Yes.
Yeah, I actually forgot to skipped over one of the questions I had. Can you tell us a little bit more about your strategy in terms of marketing and entertainment spend, especially relative to years 3 and 4, I believe? Specifically, in your projections, you did not seem to reflect much impact in terms of competition in those years.
In years 3
and 4. Would your marketing and entertainment spend change as a result of competition?
Yeah, I think the marketing approach will evolve over the course of time. When we first open, obviously, we'll be the only casino in the state, and we'll invest quite a bit of money in advertising and partnerships to build awareness and get people to try us out. Obviously, there's a built-in base of business here in the state of people who already go to Connecticut and Rhode Island, and it was similar to our experience in Pennsylvania, where people were frequenting the Atlantic City casinos already when we opened. So there wasn't the situation that you had to create gamers, because the gamers existed, but it was the mission then is to make them aware of your property, to make sure that they're aware of all the benefits of your property, and then once they come and try it, then you try to get them into your database and then market them directly. Then you're moving away from mass marketing and more targeted direct marketing. But in the first few years, you're continuing to hit the market. It's a big state. We'll be the only casino in it, and we'll be looking in other states too, but we probably won't need to with only 1,250 slots. So it will be constantly messaging the benefits of our property in the first few years. And as I said, that will then move over to more targeted direct marketing, promotions to the database that we have, and we'll do less of the messaging, particularly when the other casinos come on, because curiously there is a bit of a synergy. When they begin to market too, then you're creating awareness that there are casinos in the state, and you don't have to spend as much on the awareness dollar as you do on more call to action spending. So you actually spend a little less on messaging once the competition comes in. It might sound counterintuitive, but we'll have a head start on all of them. And at that point, then we'll have a database that will be substantial after a few years. And that's the big reason why we think, while we will be impacted in some respects, we will be able to mitigate that because we will have, after 3 years, a very loyal, satisfied customer base that we're marketing to directly. And they really won't have any reason to go to the other properties unless it's something that we don't offer, and there won't be that much that we don't offer to those customers. And we're going to build a beautiful property. So we're confident that we can compete with any property in the state, other than the fact that we won't have as many gaming positions as them. And obviously, that will be a problem because the market capacity exceeds the number of games we have, or the demand exceeds the capacity.
It does. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, I think we are finished. Thank you very much. You'll have a chance to make a closing comments if you want after
Thank
you've had
you.
a chance to have everybody else. Thank
We
you
were
very
saving
much.
the best for last. George Carney wanted to say something.
He already did his.
Quit while you're ahead, George.
Next is a presentation by representatives of the host community. Mr. Chairman, do you want to take the lead on this?
Again, thank you all for joining us today, and I'm joined by my two colleagues on the board, Marie Smith and Dick Shivo, who I think would appreciate a quick minute or two following me to speak as well. I've had an opportunity to talk to some of you independently over the course of the past year, and I had told the judge in October at the convention center I did not envy the position any of you are in. I give you, as past speakers, a tremendous amount of credit for the transparency that you've projected throughout this process, and I have every belief, as Mayor Unit said, that whatever decision you make will be the best one for the Commonwealth. But with that being said, I am obviously partial to Raynham. I have now been a selectman for 7 years. I was elected my senior year of college, and I am the fourth generation in my family to serve the people of Raynham. My great-grandfather was one of the first police officers. My grandfather, from scratch, started the Park and Rec Department, and now I am my father's boss, as he is a police captain. Like my family, having a long history here in Raynham, so too does the Carney family. And that is one of the many reasons why I think you saw such a tremendous amount of support from the people of Raynham. It's because the Carney family are part of the town of Raynham. We have fire trucks that the Carney family has helped us pay for. In addition to supporting charities and other causes, the Carney family are part of the Raynham family, and that's something I know they're proud of, and I think that I can say confidently we're proud of. We have been looking for a number of years to get this open. I know that when I campaigned 7 years ago, this was a centerpiece of my campaign, doing everything I could in my power to work with the Commonwealth to make sure that Raynham Park was awarded a license. Hundreds of jobs, Raynham residents, Taunton residents, and surrounding communities were lost when Greyhound racing ended. It was a travesty. To this day, we still have people waiting and hoping that Raynham Park will again be awarded a license so they can get back to work. My colleagues and I in Raynham government recognize that. In our agreement, we not only sought to protect the people of Raynham, but the people who lost their jobs when Greyhound racing closed. It's because we recognize what they did for our community, working with the Carney family. I want to hit upon a few other things as well. In terms of permitting, it's my firm belief, I stand with Tony and with George, we expect that they can be open within 6 months. I can tell you my staff at Town Hall will do everything while maintaining the letter of the law to get them up and running in 6 months. We are having a pre-planning session on December 19th. Our new planning director, John Charbonneau, is here if you have more specific questions, but he is under every instruction to make sure this is done, again, within the letter of the law, but to get people back to work. That is our priority in Raynham, to get people back to work, and then secondary to that is to generate tax revenue for not just Raynham, but for the Commonwealth. And in terms, Mr. Chairman, of geographics, I want to take a minute to brag. We have two companies in the town of Raynham that after, in one case, Johnson & Johnson, a nationwide search, chose Raynham. And in the other case, Electrochem, a worldwide search chose Raynham. Raynham is an extremely special place. It's why my family's been here over 100 years. It's why I believe the Carney family has chose to stay here for so long. And it's why business after business chooses to locate in Raynham out of anywhere else, because we're a phenomenal place. You see the school that we're in today. This is a community that understands what it means to be a community, who invests in themselves and who helps each other out to move forward. It is my firm belief, my sincere belief, that if the commission gives a license to Raynham, you will be served proud, and the Commonwealth will be well represented in the gaming field. And all I can say at this point is, again, thank you for your time. We, as a town, are available to the commission as you might see fit to utilize us. And I also want to commend you on the hiring of John as the ombudsman. I can tell you he has been a privilege to work with. Sometimes Raynham has the small community syndrome where we feel left out. John's done anything but that. He's been receptive, he's been honest, he's been candid, and most importantly to us, he's been respectful. So I thank you for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. We like John, too. Mr. Shava, do you want to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. It's a privilege and an honor to be able to say a few words to you. I know a lot of comments have been made tonight, so I'll confine my remarks to just a few on behalf of the town. 3 communities are clearly competing for the slot casino license. We know that, and each community has merit. We understand that. But only one community is not only situated along 495 and 95, and a lot of comments have been made regarding our location, but we really cannot underestimate the value of our close proximity to Route 24. That is really critical difference between us and the other communities that have been mentioned. You go north on 24, you go straight to Boston on 93. You bring in all of that work from Quincy, all the people from Weymouth. These are large population communities that have direct access to us through Route 24. Coming from the south, you have New Bedford, you have Fall River, you have Providence. So Route 24, and by the way, it's important to note that we have not 1 but 2 exits off of Route 24. Either one of them are a mile on either side of the proposed park. It can't get any better transportation-wise than that. Only one community has successfully hosted a gambling establishment for 70 years. Now, the other community that we talked about has been around for 14 or 15 years. I submit to you, experience counts. Experience counts. 70 years of operating a successful gambling establishment has to count for a lot. In my world, experience does count. And when we talked about the unanimous support of the community, it has been quoted as 87%. Let me just clarify that. It was 87.1%. So I feel very good about the fact that we have that extra 0.1% that's been talked about. I know we've talked a little bit about the aggressive plans to be operational within 6 months, and Mr. Ritchie made a very good point when he said, you know, some of this is relative because dealing with MEPA and dealing with DOT, and I do some of that, some of my other work, we know that that's going to affect everybody. So I think that point was well made, but I do want to emphasize something that perhaps is obvious, but we have a tremendous advantage in the partnership of 2 very, very experienced people. I don't think any of the other communities can boast of having a Kearney or a Greenwood Racing, and the success of both of them. The synergistic value of bringing these 2 together, I think we have to allow for that synergy. And to me, that's a critical component in the potential that we are offering. So Raynham is, the Kearney, the partnership, Raynham is the only one that offers all of these things. Lastly, I do want to thank you for your active consideration of our application. We know that the decision is not an easy one. I think everybody has spoken to that. But I believe at the conclusion of your due diligence and at the conclusion of your vetting process, you will see that Raynham is the one that can most successfully deliver against the standards and the template which you have set for this establishment and for this operation. In fact, I believe we will exceed those standards. So on behalf of the town of Raynham, I humbly submit that we would be the best choice of any of the communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Well, I guess that Mr. Pacheco and Mr. Chavo have really nailed everything that we stand for in Raynham. And there's not much left to say. Everyone that got up here today spoke of Mr. Carney and the Carney family and what they have contributed to their communities. Well, let me tell you, Mr. Carney has contributed a lot. He has been a great neighbor for the town of Raynham, and we're all very pleased that he has decided to put forth and do such a thing as this. Parks Management has given you a great presentation. I think this is a wonderful project. Mr. Chavo has told you all about the ins and outs of Raynham, how to get here and how it will work. I can see no other place than Raynham for a place like this. I really cannot. This will open up to southeastern Mass that little economic engine that everybody talks about, because we do need the jobs, and this will provide all the jobs that we will need, not only in Raynham, but in Brockton and in Bridgewater. So I thank you very much for coming, and I do hope that you will give careful consideration to the parks and Mr. Carney and the town of Raynham. We're willing and we're open for the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Buckner, Town Administrator. Is he here? I'm sorry? Okay, thank you. Mr. Gordon Luciano is an elected member of the Board of Assessors. He said he would like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Excuse me. Welcome to Raynham. For over 20 years, I've been a local official here in our community, served on the Board of Selectmen. I survived as a member of the school committee, and I currently now serve as an elected member to the Board of Assessors. One of the things when this proposal first came forward is the assessors took the position of neutrality and did not endorse the project, so that all of the numbers that we would analyze and evaluate and be asked our opinion of would be perceived as being fair, accurate to each and every question posed before us. And in a careful analysis of what's been presented, we're able to verify many of the facts that have been put forward to our community and to you as far as revenue for the community. When you take a look at, for example, the financial impact to the town of Raynham, and what does it mean? Utilizing our fiscal year 14 values for the community, as we have just finished up our classification for that fiscal year and set our tax rate just this past Tuesday. Using conservative numbers, for example, if at full build-out for the facility in Phase 2 comes in at $125 million of assessed value, at our current tax rate of $21.63, that would mean over $2,703,000 to the town of Raynham. Additional dollars currently not derived. When you add to that, right off the top, the mitigation figure of $1 million, that the figures being thrown about between $3 and $4 million to the town are accurate, based on the presentation of the facility and the mitigation money as provided in the contract. What does that mean to each individual? It's very important that every Raynham resident is considered a stakeholder in this project and must have the ability to benefit from this, because it is a community project. Average house in Raynham is currently at $294,100. That would be an average savings for every $1 million impact of over $170 per household. Amortizing that out to the $3 to $4 million figure, that is a significant savings, significant value to each resident of our town, each homeowner. What does it mean to the overall value of the town? You hear at times that it could potentially bring values down. The mere fact of adding $125 million to our value equates to over a 7.2% increase in the overall town value. a significant increase in what the town's worth becomes. As we move forward, as this project goes on, a team has been put in place, and it's the same team we've used for 20 years. It's our financial team that carefully analyzes each and every dollar that comes into our community. And I believe we have been good stewards of those dollars. As this additional money comes in, no promises have been made, no commitments have been made, except that the voters, the people, the residents of Raynham would be the first voice that those of us that are elected and appointed officials who are involved in the financial aspect of our community will be heard. One of the things that we have always done is taken great pride in providing town services. That is a very important factor when you open up a facility that will bring thousands of people, hopefully, daily, into your community. Those services mean something to those people as well. When they come into our community and they have a medical emergency, the hope of their families is that this town can immediately provide a service of quality that is second to none. We have a full fire department, paramedics. We run 2 ambulances full-time. We have new and upgraded equipment, state-of-the-art fire apparatus and protective gear. We have a 10-year capital plan that makes sure that every member of our public safety force is fully outfitted in all that is needed to provide the services required today for our residents and also for our visitors. And the visitors to this track, to this facility, would be included in that. They would be able to have the comfort level of knowing that in the case of an emergency, their needs would be addressed immediately. Security. We have a full-time police force that's first rate in our training and in our facilities. We have done this through the values of the community over the past 20 years by establishing a capital plan, a financial projection plan, to make sure that every dollar that is raised is spent adequately at a level that meets the needs of our community and is not wasted. We also have over 4% of our annual operating budget currently in a stabilization account for unforeseen emergencies. Our general fund does not pay for capital items, because if you commit to a capital item without sustainable reoccurring revenues, years down the road, where does that come after? You pay the bond on the fire truck, you may have to lay off the employee. What we have done is, through our capital plan, is all of our projects are paid with one-time monies that come in that are unanticipated, such as new growth or free cash at the end of a fiscal year that is certified of money we didn't spend. We use those type of resources for the one-time expenditures so as not to have to impact our daily operational expense of the community. These are important factors, I believe, when considering this proposal for approval, because the town commits to all the residents, not only here, will derive a benefit and be considered stakeholders and part of the benefit package, but also the visitors as well. They will be treated appropriately in any type of situation, respected and welcomed here in our community. So with that, I want to assure the Commission that the plan is in place, it is long-term, it is ongoing, and it will make the Commission proud down the road to see how Raynham handles the additional dollars if we are so privileged to have provided to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. There was a consultant from Raynham, Mr. Birmingham, that wanted to speak. Robert Birmingham.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it's a pleasure to be here. IMB, the Birmingham with B&S Consulting. We were retained by the town of Raynham on April the 9th to conduct an impact analysis of what the casino proposed by the Carneys and Parks would bring to the town. We began an in-depth series of interviews and analysis of the town infrastructure, its housing, its unemployment, its school system, street system, and then traffic conditions and the site. We met with the developer. We met with Ms. Brock and the staff of the existing facility, as well as town hall staff, and conducted 3 public forums. We appeared on talk radio. We appeared on the local access TV network to garner comment and input into our public forums. And I should say our conclusion after all of that is that the proposal will not have a negative impact on the town economically. As you've heard by many speakers so far, there'll be a positive economic impact on the community from jobs as well as spin-off economic development purchases of goods and services, that sort of thing. The one comments we received over and over again was traffic. Many people were concerned about the impact on 138. We, in partnership with our own traffic consultants, F.A. Hesketh, Incorporated from Bloomfield, Connecticut, who have, as well as myself, over 20 years' experience working with gaming facilities in Connecticut. I myself was a past director of planning and economic development for the Mashantucket Pequot tribes, developers of Foxwood since its inception in 1991. So we have a good handle on what the community impacts might be from not only economics, but as I said, traffic from F.A. Hesketh. He analyzed the report from Niche and came up to the conclusion that they were being overly conservative. We concur with their recommendations for the channelization of traffic in the front of the facility and for the improvements to the various intersections in Taunton and the 1 or 2 in Easton. There's one additional intersection we studied on Old North Main Street that we concur needs some upgrading as well. But bottom line is we think that there will be a minimal negative impact. We assisted the Board of Selectmen and participated in the negotiation sessions with the developer and the board to develop the existing host community agreement. I think it's a good agreement. You should review it. All of the 16 points that the Act requires to be dealt with are indeed covered in the Act. If there are things that are not suitably analyzed at this point in time that come up through the MEPA process and so forth, the Carneys and the developer have committed to fund those improvements as they are identified during the Phase 2 permitting process. So I think the impact on the community will be negligible. From a financial standpoint, there certainly will be some issues that need to be dealt with as time goes on, site policing and so forth. But that's a discussion that'll be ongoing, as I understand it, between the local police, the Massachusetts State Police, and your own gaming inspectors. And those are issues that are going to be beyond the control of the town. But again, the developer has committed to deal with those costs and pay for whatever shifts are required to be implemented on the property as time goes forward. I did review his application to the commission. All the boxes are appropriately responded to, in my opinion. And I do have some experience in negotiating agreements in the state of Connecticut. The second round compact, I was part of the project team on a part of the tribe with the state of Connecticut. So all those issues, just a complete aside for you for 1 second, you've been complimented vociferously tonight, and I'd like to compliment the legislative team who wrote the act. I have, from my experience in Connecticut, there's nothing like that in the compacts or the negotiated compacts between the tribes within Connecticut, as you find in the act. You've covered the basis. My experience with the towns is, yes, there's some social impacts. Yes, there are some crime issues to deal with. Yes, the economic impact sometimes may not be quite so fruitful as is anticipated initially, because frankly, we are in a declining market, and that's what we have to deal with. But the act and the implementation of the act through the commitments of the developer, I think adequately provide a framework for dealing with those issues as you move forward. So I think Massachusetts is benefited by the act that you have and your due diligence and implementing it through these proceedings and issuance of the license and conditions to the licenses that is in your discretion to implement. And I encourage you to think about what they may be. Thank you very much for your time. Do you have any questions of me?
I do. Anybody else? Apparently, if I understood correctly, it sounded like Mass DOT thought the niche traffic study was too limited in scope. There were 12 other intersections that should be attended to. You,
Yes.
on the other hand, found the niche study overly conservative. So do you disagree with MassDOT?
No. Well, my purview, as you understand, was for the town of Raynham. We didn't extend our review into the town of Easton, where these new intersections that MassDOT are asking to be interviewed.
I thought some of them were in Raynham. Am I wrong about that?
North Main Street, beyond that?
Yes, there's a couple others in Raynham on the other side of 495 that's also being studied.
Now, our comments are based on this. Our 20 years of study of traffic volumes at Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun have generated a per gaming station traffic generation factor, in our view, that the CONDOT uses now in evaluating traffic impact from gaming facilities in Connecticut. When you look at the combined trip factor for the restaurant, the gaming station, the entertainment venues that occur on the casino site, that reduces the overall impact of traffic to a facility, in our view, in our empirical studies that we've had over the years. So that's the basis for believing niche and perhaps even MassDOT are a little conservative in summing all the kinds of uses that are going to be on the property into additional factors for each individual use, like I said, restaurants, the gaming facilities themselves, entertainment venues. So in our analysis, we think that the niche is being conservative. Are there other impacts in the town of Easton? I'll leave that to MassDOT to determine.
No, that's a different question, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're
Anybody
welcome.
else? Thank you. Okay, I think that's all the representatives of the host community. Am I right, Mr. Pacheco?
No, our fire chief, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
I'm sorry. I don't see his name on here, but
Chief Janice.
Good evening, Chair, Commission.
good evening.
Good evening.
I just would like to tell you is that the fire department is in full.
Excuse me, could we just have your name, please?
Chief Janice, Raynham Fire Department, JANUSC.
Thank you.
The fire department is strongly in support of the Carney family on this project. And talking about the Carney family, and Joe Suckman Chico hit on it, they not only donated to a fire truck, a tower truck that we bought 6 years ago, but they also built us a brush truck. And I think all my people have worked at the Raynham Park one time or another. I know he's put a lot of kids through college up there. My dad worked there, I've worked there, my son worked there. And we've had a great relation to him. We look forward to working with him on this project, and hopefully we can get going soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it?
I believe so.
Thank you. All right. Okay, we have some guests and representatives from surrounding communities who are official representatives. Let me see. That would be Peter Colombotos from the Bridgewater Town Council. Is he here? Or Sherry, I can't read the handwriting, from the Taunton City Council? Okay. And is there anybody else? Are there other surrounding community elected officials or town administrators? Okay. Are there any representatives of live entertainment venues? I don't believe so. Then we will move on to representatives of the public. It is now 20 of 7. We're hoping not to be here too long, but we are hoping to hear from everybody. If you will do us all the favor of keeping your comments as brief as you can, particularly if you have something new to say, we're interested in that. If you just want to support what's been previously said, that's fine too, and it'd be helpful if you could do that as briefly as possible, because there are quite a few names here on the list. I'm just going to take them as they came in. Let's start out with Ethan Snow from Unite Here. And Chris Cooney and William Smith will be teed up next if they're here.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners, for the opportunity. My name is Ethan Snow. I'm a resident of Pembroke, the Political and Communications Director of the New England Joint Board, Unite Here. I have a few of our members here today. I just want to introduce one of our members.
Good evening. My name is Karen Carroll. I'm a food service worker at Bridgewater State University.
Welcome.
So as you know, Unite Here represents food service workers at Bridgewater University nearby. In addition to thousands of hospitality workers in Boston's hotels and over 100,000 gaming workers in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, many other gaming markets, including Twin River and Rhode Island. The gaming industry is really our industry. We know that gaming jobs can be good family-sustaining jobs when there's a partnership between Unite Here and the gaming employer. And the benefits go beyond good wages and excellent benefits. As you know, we have experience operating joint labor management training centers that provide free entry-level training to people seeking jobs in our industry. Mr. George Carney has been very receptive to talking with our union, but to date, Raynham Park's operating partner, Greenwood Racing, has not signed a labor harmony agreement with our union and our coalition partners, the Teamsters and the operating engineers. We're surprised that Greenwood has not signed with us, given that we're the hospitality workers union nationally and here in Massachusetts. We've represented gaming hospitality workers for over 70 years. We wonder about Greenwood's commitment to creating family-sustaining jobs stable here in Raynham. As residents of the Commonwealth, we want to bring our union's standard of high wages and excellent benefits to the gaming industry in Massachusetts. Unite Here members working in casinos earn a living wage. Las Vegas cooks and housekeepers earn $18 an hour. Unite Here members in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, and in Boston hotels have a defined benefits pension and affordable family health care. Unite Here wants gaming jobs in Massachusetts to maintain these high standards. But without a commitment to labor harmony, we're doubtful that a casino at Raynham Park will provide the quality jobs anticipated by the Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe that would be something Mr. Ritchie could address in his remarks at the end of the day. Mr. Cooney or Mr. Smith, is either of you here? Ted Burgess from West Bridgewater, Scott Ferrigno, Mike Viniski, Sister Helen Inauskas. If you want to come up so we can move along quickly. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Ted Burgess. I'm the general manager of Burgess Pest Management, a veteran-owned company locally. I have the unique perspective to talk about my relationship with the Carneys as a former employee and current vendor. I'm going to reiterate a lot of comments that have been here tonight, so I'll be very brief. Obviously, this opportunity will create a number of jobs throughout the community, providing stability with those jobs for the workers and their families. Support of local vendors. My company's had a relationship with the Carneys for over 25 years. Loyalty, obviously, is something that's not easily found these days, but the Carneys have gone out of their way to show that to the local vendors. There's, of course, a trickle-down effect that these local vendors will have the opportunity to hire within the community to support the needs of, once again, this opportunity. Family-owned and operated company. Carneys have done nothing other than operate a first-class operation. I can speak personally that my days as an employee of the Carneys, I did not go a single day without FaceTime with one of the owners asking me whether or not there was something that I needed day to day. And of course, their community investment, charitable contributions to various organizations and youth programs. And lastly, the support of the community, particularly the local vendors, my family, and on behalf of my father, a former state representative, we are in full support of this county venture. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Scott Farino. I'm part owner of Sign Design Incorporated in Brockton, Mass. And we are in our 24th year, and I'm happy to say have had a business relationship with the Carney family for all of those years. And they really have treated us like family. And I've known them all my life, and I'm proud and privileged to be here to support their efforts.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your brevity. Mr. Vineski or Sister Helen?
Hello, my name's Alfred Hayden. I'm speaking for Mike Beninsky. He had to leave.
Okay.
We apologize for that.
It's all right.
Yeah, my name's Alfred Hayden. I live in Brockton, and I live about a mile away from the fairgrounds. And I think a horse track would be great there. And I live about 5 miles away from Raynham. And I used to go to the Raynham dog track, and I thought it was a pretty nice place. They always kept it up, and it was always really nice. Very comfortable place to go to. We're from the Wheels of Time, and we've been associated with George Carney for about 20 years or so. And he's always been there to help us with our charities, because we're a charity organization. And he's been a real supporting member of that. And I'm for the gaming and the horse track. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Wendy, I'm sorry, excuse me. Excuse me. Go ahead, please.
George Winters, I'm from Brockton. I've been in the Wheels of Time. I think Connie's done a lot for us in a lot of different areas all throughout. I've known them probably for a long time. And they've always been very fair to everybody that I know. I don't know anybody that doesn't have anything to do with them. I think the gaming and the dog track would be a great thing for all the towns around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioner. My name is David Lynch. I've personally known Mr. Carney. God bless him and his family. What I want to start with real quick is the president of our Brockton Police Department. I'm from the city of Brockton. I'm the town mechanic and the contractor for 24 and 495 for the state police. Our president, who was sitting behind me for representing the Brockton Patrolmen's Union, was sent here tonight in 100% support of the harness racing and the fairgrounds. So he told me to give you nothing but love.
What was his name?
His name is, I'm nervous because I'm standing here. His,
Take your time. Take your time.
Officer Bill Healy.
Bill
Healy, yes. Real quick, my parents, I'm born and raised right by the Brockton Fairgrounds. I'm a resident. I live around the corner from Mr. Carney's personal home. I can't say enough about him. The man just does everything for everybody. I've never heard him say no. With everything going on, my parents are sick, he still checks in on them. The guy, I don't even know what else to say. We just, everything we can possibly see for him that we can possibly do, please give this man a chance and his family. He deserves it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. When?
Mr. Chair.
I think Sister.
Oh, Sister Helen, good, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. On behalf of Lithuanian Children's Relief, I want to say thank you, ačiū, to Mr. Carney and his wonderful staff for the help they have provided these past 5 years. Lithuania, a small Baltic country in Europe, was under communism for 50 years. Lithuania was the first country to dare to stand up to the Soviet Union and declare her independence. LCR was founded when Lithuania declared her independence to help support the country. Mr. Carney provided the use of his Brockton Fairgrounds for the storage. And with his men, when we send off a container, they are there with their lifts lifting the things. We have sent about 175 40-foot containers, and we have been with Mr. Carney for the past 5 years. And I'm really speechless to properly thank him and his wonderful, wonderful workers for all the help that has been given. And in Lithuanian, the whole world speaks Lithuanian. Every time they sneeze, ačiū, it says thank you. So ačiū, ačiū, and God bless you. Be assured of our prayers for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Wendy Kruzik. I've worked for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for 36 years, providing supports to people with disabilities. And in 1997, when I partnered with the track, I didn't know I was partnering with the Carney family, too. They embraced us, and a real thread. It's hard enough to get a job today without having disabilities, too. And one of the key factors is natural supports. And with the first day we started, the natural supports just began. And it filtered from the top all the way down to everybody, and they made our people feel welcome with dignity and respected. And it wasn't uncommon to see Mr. Carney come through and take the time to give words of encouragement to our people. They were devastated when they had to leave. The 13 years they worked for Mr. Carney, and with a promise of employing our people again should the gaming come back. So I hope that you do give him the permit and whatever it takes to make that happen, because we're excited that might happen again for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Kevin Solera. I also work for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I accompany Wendy. And just to reiterate, I am the Director of Vocational Services for the Southeast region of Department of Developmental Services. And we do want to commend Mr. Carney on his commitment to hiring people with disabilities. I know there's a lot of mandatory commitment for veteran-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, but there is no mandatory for hiring people with disabilities. And the Carney family has really stepped up and made his operations welcoming to anyone who wants a job. He has made a commitment. If he does receive this licensing, he will promote hiring people with disabilities, and I really want to commend Carney and his operations for being so welcoming to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Harrigan, Jake Betancourt, Stephen Bernard.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you for the opportunity. I'm the general manager of the Taunton Municipal Lighting Plant. We're a municipal lighting plant that serves Taunton, Raynham, Berkeley.
Excuse me, you're Mr. Harrigan?
Harrigan.
Harrigan, sorry, okay.
Sorry. We serve Berkeley, little North Dayton, parts of Lakeville, and little parts of Bridgewater. We've served Raynham Dog Track since its inception. Back in '78, we did a big expansion to the facility. And I think it was an electric heat track that was put in to be able to run the dates during the winter. And the facility over the years had run its day rates, its races, as well as its night races, et cetera, with, the traffic volume that came in. I think the main thing I just want to say, TMLP has the capacity to serve this facility very well. And as an owner of the facility, Raynham Dog Track has been a very good customer to us, been a very cooperative customer. As you've heard here, he's been very good to the community as well. That facility has been the economic engine. When the track did close down, because of the dog track got voted out, significant load was dropped off our system, but it also, just didn't affect our system, it affected 138 and all the businesses that were there. And you can talk a little bit about the traffic, but there was traffic for years that went into that facility. That parking lot was full during the afternoons, and it was full at nighttime on its race dates. So the community experienced it and understood it, and the impacts were minimal at that time. So additional impact to filling up that parking lot, I think they have that under complete control. But as a customer, he's implemented the energy audits throughout the years. He's taken the initiatives to do the energy efficiency programs. And when the ISO, of which we're all a member of, was the Independent System Operator in New England, had their stresses at different times, the generation that Connie has on site, we were able to cooperate with him very easily to have him run his generation to reduce the stress to the system, to keep the New England public power pool in place. In addition to that, we look forward to working with him and his development team and coming to the final implementation of both the initial phase as well as the second phase. And it'll be just an additional load to our system. And, you know, being a municipal light, we're local control. We have the staff and the knowledge, local knowledge, and to be able to respond to the issues that may occur in the system to ensure they have their reliability and good low-cost electricity. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Steve Bernard. First I'd like to say thank you to the Commission, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, commissioners, presenters. I bring greetings from Warren Cofield, the presenter, to you on November 7th. He was presenting for the Mass Gaming Diversity Coalition members. That included the Center for Women in Enterprise, Greater New England Minority Suppliers Development Council, Hispanic American Chamber of Commerce, Massachusetts Minority Contractors Association, Minority Business Development Agency, NAACP New England Area Conference, and the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. I'm the president of the Brockton area NAACP. Our service area includes Raynham Park and nearby cities and towns. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People is the largest and the most effective civil rights organization in the country. Economic sustainability is among our top priorities. The unemployment rate in the nation is 7.2%. The unemployment rate among African Americans is nearly double, exceeding 13%. The labor force participation rate in the African American community is 60%. From today's news columns, articles speaking on income inequality, I'd like to give you some quotes. Income inequality is riskier than you think. Economists' consensus: extreme economic inequality of the type the United States is experiencing impedes economic growth. Income inequality limits upward mobility. Studies show we trust each other less when there's greater inequality. Inequality is bad for democracy. And lastly, inequality screws up the economy and society in general. So even if you are not worried about inequality or opportunity, you ought to be. Looking at what Raynham Park gaming brings to the area, it brings job opportunities. It brings marketing opportunities, information technology opportunities, finance, accounting, human resources, food and beverage, security, leisure entertainment, to name a few opportunities. Potential internship at from high schools and colleges. Curriculum changes to facilitate the gaming industry at local colleges. How are these opportunities facilitated? Raynham Park is partly owned by a local businessman and a local businessman's family, that being the Carney family. George is an ardent supporter of the work ethic, as he works every day, even today. and tonight, as we all sit and listen to the comments. He is committed and dedicated to the business and the people who work to make the business a success. George has enthusiastically asked to work with the Diversity Commission to develop partnership and implement employment opportunities at Raynham Park. I have known George for the greater part of my life, and I believe that the community surrounding Raynham will positively benefit financially, socially, equitably from the many establishments and opportunities that a slot parlor at Raynham Park will facilitate. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you, George, and your partners for offering us this wonderful opportunity for growth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I didn't mention Jason Machado. And go ahead, sir.
Hi, Jake Betancourt, Colonial Wholesale Beverage. A very simple acronym for the business we represent is BEER, beer. Had the opportunity, our organization, Colonial Wholesale Beverage, has worked with the Carneys for well over 40 years. Mr. Carney is one of the most integrity-based gentlemen I've had the opportunity to work with. I have to meet with Mr. Carney and his team every year to discuss opportunities at the Brockton Fair. First and foremost, his concern is always for community, and that means a lot. It's not about profit, it's about community. And the Brockton Fair has faced many challenges in the environment that it's in. Every time I've gone to bat with Mr. Carney, that's their first concern. So I've got to tell you, I read your banner up there and it says successful and ethical. And that's that man sitting right there. And if I could give any more support to that man for what he's done for his community, this community, I would do it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Other names, Bill Lenahan, Kevin Solera, Alfred Hayden, George Winter. Forgive me if I mispronounce. Skeever, well, I was close.
Good evening. My name is Bill Lenahan, and I am from Quality Beverage, the local Anheuser-Busch wholesaler located in Taunton, Mass. I stand behind everything that Jake just said. In the trade, Jake and I are competitors. We sell against each other, our products, his products. But we stand unified in our support for the Carneys and this Raynham Park endeavor. So on behalf of Quality Beverage, we fully support the Carneys and Parks in this movement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kevin Skeever. I'm here tonight with my partner, Walter Collins. We own the Great American Pub. We're located on Route 138, a quarter mile south of the track. We support the slots 100% and Mr. Carney as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry? Yeah. Do you need a break? Are you dying? Do you want to take a quick, you all right? Okay. All right. Thank you. Our transcription editor, or whatever the title is, at our Leominster meeting stayed unmoving for 5.5 hours and did this taking down of the transcript. So we will have a word-for-word transcription, and this woman here is doing yeoman work. Thank you very much. Dennis Machado is also a Jason. Bill Hesley, or is that Bill Hesley, maybe Healy? Frank Howard. Dominic, sorry, I can't quite read it. Tagano.
Good evening. My name's Frank Howard. I'm a vendor to the Brockton Fair and also the Raynham Dog Track. I'm also a resident of Brockton for 40 years. And during that time, I just want to say I've been a customer at both places, the Brockton Fair and the Raynham Dog Track. I just want to remind you that their attention to detail in running these two entertainment places is impeccable. Even during challenging economic times, They didn't waver on cleanliness, offering value for the customer, safety. It's a place that you'd always want to go. And I just want to say that I feel very confident if they were to get this license, you'd be very proud. And I think Brockton and Raynham would also be very proud also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dominic Tagano, and I'm a resident of East Taunton. I've been paying very close attention to how the gaming legislation has affected my community. In short, I'm appalled and disgusted. While I don't want to speak in depth about the Mashpee Wampanoag's proposal to build their casino in my local area, in fact, 4 doors down from me, I do want to highlight the enormous difference in sentiment and comments with this proposal. I regrettably have not paid close enough attention to the developments proposed in my neighboring town of Raynham. I did, however, have the pleasure to come to the last meeting regarding this proposal held at Oliver Ames High School in Easton. Now, I don't know Mr. Connie from a hole in the wall. I didn't know anything about Greenwood racing either. But I'm no fool, and I've done a little bit of my own suitability research. Everyone I talk to either has the nicest things to say about Mr. Connie, or they say something to the effect of, I don't know him, but I just heard he's a great guy. And I've heard a million different stories about why, more so than you've heard here tonight. As you heard at the last meeting from municipal officials for both Raynham and other surrounding communities, he's been an integral part of this community. He's one of us. He's invested in this community, and through his actions, he shows he is committed to this community. In the research I did about Greenwood, I did find them to be a stand-up company, and I think that they will fit well into this community as they have in places like Bensalem. Now, so far as community support, I take offense to the fact that so many people say that my community voted overwhelmingly in support of a tribal casino at 63%, when the truth is the local precincts voted overwhelmingly against it. Then the same word, overwhelmingly, is used to describe the outcome of the vote in Raynham, where they voted over 86%, 86.1% in favor of the slots parlor. Even with such a majority vote and great support already from community leaders, Mr. Connie has forged an agreement with my community voluntarily and will be providing substantial mitigation to my city. In addition to that, he has agreed to non-tangible things like hiring preferences for local residents and job fairs at the start of construction and operation. He has also agreed to support Taunton's businesses through a voucher rewards program. This was not simply a quiet down Taunton, here's your money kind of agreement. This is an agreement forged by Taunton and with someone who cares about this community. Commissioners, I'll finish with this. If Taunton voted overwhelmingly at 63%, then I guess Raynham voted unanimously at 86%. I urge you by year's end, humbly urge you by year's end, to award a slots license to the applicant before you tonight. If by some chance you possess any concern at all that the Taunton Tribal Casino deal could have negative effects on revenue for this slots parlor or the Commonwealth, then I stand before you today with this message. The Mashpee Wampanoag tribe will never get land in trust, and as such, should be a non-factor in this decision and any decision regarding Region C or the rest of the state going forward. Thank you all for your time. Have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michael McRae and David Shamil, maybe? The last two names I have here. Are there other folks who would like to speak? Two more, come right up.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Jim Ufrady. I'm a 30-year resident of Raynham. Raynham is a wonderful community, and it would be a great host community for the slots parlor. I grew up in Brockton, not too far from the Brockton Fair. It was a great place to go for kids. I used to see Mr. Connie working there. He actually worked there. He just didn't own it, he worked there. I saw him out there picking up rubbish. That's the kind of guy he is. I've been to 3 meetings. The first meeting was at the town hall. I was impressed with their presentation. I went to the second meeting at the track. I was even more impressed, and I met Mr. Ritchie. He is an outstanding man. He knows what he's doing. The 2 men will make a great combination. Please do not deny them the opportunity to bring this facility to Raynham. Mr. Chairman, could I ask you a question?
Depends.
This is your 3rd experience with contenders. How does our presentation compare to the other 2?
Your presentation has much more praise for Mr. Carney.
Beyond that, do they have their programs developed to the degree that Mr. Carney and Mr. Ritchie do?
You'll see us discussing this in public in a few weeks when
So
we get
you
around to
cannot
making our
answer my
decision.
question now.
I'm afraid I'm not going to answer your question.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank
This is the best place, believe me. It is a wonderful community, and it will be a great host. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more?
Good evening. My name is Brian McElhenney. I'm the president of Teamsters Local 653 in Easton, Massachusetts. And I'd like to speak for a minute about the Carney family. As my brothers and sisters from Unite here spoke a little bit about union relationships. Mr. Carney has 2 union contracts in his family with Local 653, and we've had a long relationship and a very profitable relationship with the Carney family. I anticipate that going forward that he will be a great employer for the region. I'm also a resident of the town of Bridgewater, and I was a resident of the town of Brockton. My wife worked for the Carney family, and many of my friends and family have worked for the Carney family over the years. So this project would have a great impact on my membership. I have approximately 2,000 members on the South Shore. Not only the members that we may potentially have at the casino, but also our members in Beer and Liquor, Frito-Lay, UPS, that have all taken a great hit since the Raynham dog track has been closed. As most of you know up there, but some of you may not know in the audience, UPS delivers the lottery tickets, which was a big hit when they closed the dog track, went to full operation. Also, our Beer and Liquor distributors took a big hit, and our Frito-Lay and some of our other distributors also took a big hit. So it would be a great day for the South Shore Teamsters and all of the members of all the locals on the South Shore to see an operation back here on the South Shore, not only for the people that will be working at that location, but for all of our other members that serve that location. So I'd just like to make sure that the committee takes that into consideration and make sure we would like to see this operation down here on the South Shore and benefit all of our struggling members and all of the people who lost their jobs, my wife being one of them, when somebody foolishly legislated dog racing out of Massachusetts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. One ahead of you and then you. And that will be the day, I think.
Yes, my name is Michael Flanagan. I've lived in the town of Raynham for 50 years, in 2 houses, one for 27 years and the last one for 23 years. Both of them come right out onto Route 138, and both are north of 495, so I live near the track. I've lived there for 50 years. I've seen the traffic that has been generated by the track, and it's not as bad as people made it out to be. I had no problem getting out of my street. There are traffic lights at 1 now. There wasn't when I lived there for 27 years. I live on a dead-end street now, and I have no problem getting out onto Broadway. I think with the slot parlor there and the traffic divided out over a number of hours instead of pocketed times coming in and out of the track, that it's not going to be an issue, really. I've worked for the fire department in this town for 35 years. I know the Carney family. I've dealt with them on a number of issues. They are greatly respected by members of the fire department. They are greatly respected by members of this community, including myself. They've done a lot of good things for this community and a lot of good things for people in this community, And I'd like to say, I'd like to see them get their opportunity to do this. It's well-deserved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Brenda Clemmey. I've
Brenda,
worked.
excuse me?
Yes, Clemmey, C-L-E-M-M-E-Y. I've worked at the Raynham Dog Track for the last 32 years as a teller. I have put 2 girls through college with the money that I earn there. And one of the things Mr. Carney, when he was talking earlier, did not mention is the reason why, and I know this because I work there and talk to the clients, that people do come from the North Shore down to the Raynham facilities, and we have been told time and again they feel safe there. He runs a facility that people can come to and feel safe and know that they can walk out at the end of the night and still be safe. And I think that the Raynham Police Department is part of that reason too. They make us feel safe when they're there. We have wonderful police officers that, you know, treat people with respect, but don't allow them to do things that they shouldn't be doing. And when they see a problem arising, they mitigate it right away. So I just want to say, I think that's another aspect, is that it's a facility that has been run with very little problems for safety and the safety of the people who come there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's helpful. Well, I would like to thank the public. All of the speakers were very, sure. That would be D'Amelia.
Perfect. I wasn't planning on speaking again, but I want to get up and very quickly, I want to commend all the commissioners and you, Mr. Chairman, on the thorough process. I want to commend Mr. Carney especially and those who made the presentation. I am extremely proud tonight of our community. When we were considering this legislation, the Expanded Gaming Act at the State House, for me, one of the most important parts was the local option. The local option, the people in the community that get to make the decision. And it's been very interesting to see across the Commonwealth how in certain communities it's played out. Some communities are interested, and then others are not. But I think everyone here this evening have made a very impassionate and clear, and sent you a clear message that here in Raynham, we want to do everything possible to help you make your decision and maybe help right a wrong that was done in the past. So with that, thank you again for coming to Raynham, and thank you for the indulgence to let me speak again.
Thank you, Representative. Well, I was just going to say thank you all to the public. Everybody was really respectful of our time and made interesting, worthwhile comments, and we appreciate it. The applicant now has an opportunity to close the day unless we have any final questions after that. Let me just throw out one, whatever else happens here, I think I can probably speak for the whole commission. Whatever else happens here, George Carney and his family should feel very, very good. You don't earn the kind of outpouring of respect and affection for a lifetime of work if it isn't for real. And what we've heard is for real. I mean, some of it was people who work with you and who need your business and so forth, but even all that aside, there is a real respect and affection. You're the kind of business person that we'd like to have in this world. How this all turns out, I don't know, but that deserves to be said. I would ask Mr. Ritchie, and to some extent this is sort of humorous, but it's not also, the Carney family runs its business independent of its profit motive to a significant extent you can see. I mean, you can see that they make decisions in philanthropy and community support and keeping people around, even if there's layoffs that need. How do you, Mr. Carney won't be running this business, how can you incorporate that kind of culture and value system, or can you incorporate at a company like yours, that culture and value system, so that these folks, what these folks are asking is to have Mr. Carney get this track. And how can you assure them that what they like about him, they'll get?
That's actually a very easy question to answer. When I was going to say earlier that, and I want to echo your sentiments, it's very difficult for people to come out and support someone when they have a busy schedule. It's a Thursday night. I am very, very touched at the outpouring of respect toward George Carney. And obviously, it's genuine. People don't come out. They don't have to. They did that on their own. So it's much, much appreciated. I'm very touched by it. What you witnessed tonight is really what drew us to this project. When the legislation was passed, we took a look at the landscape. We understood that Raynham Park was going to be a player in this contest, but we could have, like our competitors, gone along and looked for other locations. We came here, we sat down, met with George, and what we saw tonight was a validation of that decision. We were impressed. It's a beautiful town with wonderful people, which would create a great talent pool for employment. Not only that, it's a great place to attract customers. You know, one of the comments earlier was people felt safe here. They want to come to a place that they feel safe, comfortable, is clean. It's an escape. That's what we're offering, entertainment, an escape. It's difficult to do in a rundown, dreary environment. This is a very nice town with very wonderful people. It was easy as we were approaching in our first meeting with George to fall in love with this area. Then we met George, and it may be a surprise to you, but we have many, many shared values. And it didn't take very long. It might have been 5 minutes, because if you know George, he's a very instinctive individual. But we had a deal done in about 5 minutes. Is that right?
Didn't take that long.
Because we literally hit it off. So we didn't look anywhere else. And neither of our competitors can say that. We stopped right there. We sat down, worked out a deal. We knew this was the best place for Massachusetts. You've got the transportation infrastructure. You've got an existing gaming facility. It had so many similarities to our experience in Pennsylvania. It just felt right. A lot of the things that George does here parallel what we do in Bensalem. We do much, much outreach. We do make money, but in many cases, by reinforcing and strengthening your neighborhood, you actually help your business, because we are trying to draw people to this area as customers who are willing to come here frequently. So I actually share all of George's values, and I think that was one of the reasons George wanted to partner with us, because I know he interviewed many people before he selected us. And I think with that, I'll let George second that statement, because I know he feels the same way.
Well, you know, to be honest with you, everybody's been here a long time, but I went through 7 marriages, more or less, before I got to meet the fellows that Tony and the group of people he's involved with. And I was very, very, very picky. And I know at different times, some of my family members said, Jesus, are you ever going to make a deal? And anyway, I kept putting it off because I wasn't comfortable. When I met Tony and the other fellow that's principal partners with us, I said, this is where I want to go. And we made a deal. It didn't take 5 minutes. I'm keeping 50% of the company. I'm not going to retire in the near future unless for health reasons. I was very fortunate the last couple of days. I was up to Mass General, and they tell me I'm in great shape. My wife says that's the worst thing they could be telling him. You know, so I have a commitment to work till I'm 90, but I haven't put that. I'm getting too close to 90 now. I might even stretch it another 5. But I'm not going anywhere, and I tell you one thing, as long as I'm around, they'll all do the right thing, because I have that kind of faith in it, in my own family, all the girls are around, and they're probably harder to deal with than I am. So, anyway, believe me, I wouldn't go down that road if I felt that it wouldn't be the way I'd want it carried on. And Tony understands, I never ran a bottom-line company, just was not my way. We've always had a great relationship with the people. I can't tell you how happy I feel here tonight. After being around here all these years, it really made me feel great. For 25 years, it was worth waiting for. Thank you.
Anybody else, commissioners? I think we're all set. Thank you all very much. We will suspend this meeting. We will not adjourn it. As we said, we'll wait until all the surrounding community agreements are in, and we will then convene to formally conclude this meeting. Thank you all. Thank you to the town of Raynham for welcoming us.